Okay. First off, I just want to let you guys, hey, my name is Todd. I'm an alcoholic. It's nice to meet everybody here. I want you to know that we're going to have this recording. As you take notes, we are going to record this entire session. I'll get it up on YouTube for you, so if you want to listen to it later, that way you can have it. Or if you'd like to have a WAV file, you're welcome to have that sent off too. We really don't have anything to sell here, so you know what I mean. We might do a 7th edition to kind of ease the rent a bit, but ultimately we just want to kind of get the information to you. Before we begin, I want you to know that my sobriety is June 3, 1993. I do have a sponsor named Bob, and he's fully aware of it. I do have a home group called the Robbers Roost, which meets in Vista, California on Thursday nights. And this is Dan. Dan, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 18th, 2014. My home group is in this room on Tuesday night, the CDM in Stag, that also has a meeting at the Soup Kitchen and then actually in Corona Del Mar, but it's gotten so large that they have 3 different versions of, or 3 different locations of the exact same meeting style. So that's who I am.
So ultimately, where this kind of stemmed from and why we're here with you today is that my home group runs a men's retreat twice a year up in Idlewild called Back to Basics. And we get about 150 to 200 men that come from around the country. There's probably about 70 or 8 of them that are newcomers or scholarship from right out of the joint. There's a lot of prisoners that get up there. And I've been chair for that event for about almost 15 years. About 12 years ago, we started a sex and sobriety workshop, and it really was about teaching relationship ideals, going through the content on pages 69 and 70, helping men to kind of identify what was right for them so they could start to live up to those righteous ideals that were right for them. And then what happened was, we start right in the middle of a 4-step. Everyone started asking questions about the fears inventory, and then it backed us up all the way to the resentment inventory. And then folks want to know how to share it and who to share it with. So the next thing you know, we were doing the 4th and 5th step workshop at Back to Basics. We've been doing that now for, 8 years. And then the word got down the hill that there were some co-ed meetings. Women wanted to know what the heck's going on up there. There's a lot of good 4-step stuff coming out of that place. So we started running around sharing the 4th and 5th step workshop in certain venues when it was asked for. So as we kind of go walk you through this today, I want you just to be aware of a couple of things. Step 1, and in no way are Dan and I, examples or absolutes to what is or should be done or shouldn't be done in the 4th and 5th step. You're going to hear a lot of our opinion. When you hear our opinion, you should back up and you should take it with a grain of salt. When we read the book, we actually read the words that are in the book. That's fact. In other words, every single time we read something in the book, that's fact. If we define, which we do, we have definitions of words, those are facts. So we're here to give you our perspective and how we walk men through the 4th and 5th step today. And if there's something that goes against your perspective of the big book or the traditions, or offends something that you and your sponsor are working on, then just do a 4-step on us and then find your part and get over it, okay? Because you came here on your own free will. Okay, so what we will be focusing on now, when I walk men through the big book, many times what I will do is I will encourage them, and you don't have to today, but I'll encourage them to get 3 highlighters, pink, blue, and red, or whatever it may be. And what we'll do is we will slow the process down, which we will point out today, and we'll look for actions, intentions, and results. The book is full of analogy and story and influence and all that kind of feathered word to help us feel inspired to do the work. But there are very specific things to do. An action is a thing to do. An intention is how to do it. So if he says, write this, that's an action. If he says vigorously, that's how you're supposed to do it. In other words, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to do it, and a result would be a promise. In other words, this should be the result of doing that. So in other words, if you start to highlight through your book your actions, your intentions, and results, and you can come back clearly in a certain color and see the things that we're supposed to be doing without question. And you can see, you'll hear things like, day by day with a new man, or upon awakening, or before we retire at night, which tells us exactly when to do it, which would be an intention. If for some reason you're not getting the results that the book is promising, it's probably either the thing you're doing or how you're doing it that's off skew. So when we're walking through this book, every once in a while you can hear me say things like that's an action, or that's an intention, or that's a result. Okay? Also, this is really very, very, very generously a group event. In other words, we love to have your investment. So if you have a question, you want to stop us, slow it down, you have a question, you have something you want to expound on, feel free to jump in. That's why we wanted this intimate participation. So everybody can kind of interject, because we're open-minded to the idea of hearing something that we just don't know. Is that okay with you? Give me a loud yes? Yes. Cool. Far out. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through this thing for about 1:20. We'll take a break and let you guys eat the rest of those donuts, and then we'll come back and hit it up. There you go. Jump on it. Okay. So let's just start with this. So what's going to happen is Dan's going to read. I'll be interrupting him rudely constantly, okay? I'll be going through the content. Every once in a while Dan will expound, but we're here to kind of get through this. And then he'll be defining the words as well. I want you to assume, hey guys, welcome. I want you to assume that what's happened is you've just got done sitting on your getting on your knees with your sponsor, probably holding hands, and you've just made your third step vow, which is a wedding vow. You just made this covenant to give your will and life over to the care of something outside of yourself or something, and turn your will over so that you can have this experience. How we do that is in the rest of the steps. So the moment you've made that third step vow, if you're not right away in the steps, you really aren't living your third step. So there's an opinion. So the moment we've done this, the way we demonstrate our third step is by jumping right into the step action. So let's see what's suggested the moment we get done doing this third step. Let's see what Bill's got in mind.
So next we launched out on a course of vigorous action.
So you want to highlight on a course of action. We're on page 63. Apologize. Sorry. So now we launch. Somebody help me understand what the word launch means. Somebody give me launch.
Take off.
Take off. Okay. So gun goes off. Everybody's at the starter gate. We move. Yes? So you've just done a third step. And now Bill's saying it's time to move instantly. This is how fast we're going to go from our third step to our fourth step, right? He's also told us that we're going to have action. And now help me with the word vigorous. Do you have a definition for vigorous?
Yeah. Forceful, energetic, strenuous, full of active force.
So he's assuming that you have a pad of paper and a pen and you're writing like this. Go ahead. Question?
Paragraph?
We are on the last paragraph of 63 post the third step vow.
All right, here we go.
So next we have launched out on a course of vigorous action. I want you to understand he is not alluding just specifically to the fourth step here. He's talking about every step that's subsequent to the third. So we are going to be vigorous and launch through all those steps. We are not going to be part of the Step of the Month Club. Right? So what's the very first step, Dan?
The first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was vital and a crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us.
Okay, so let's stop right here. Vital and crucial.
Vital is very important, essential, necessary to life, indispensable.
Okay, so I want you to imagine I had stage 4 cancer. The doctors, and this is an actual statement, the doctor says you're going to have surgery and some radiation or you're going to die. This is vital. So in other words, if I decided to tell him, no, I don't feel like doing that right now, or I'm going to take my time, or I'm not interested in that action item, I'm dead. So Bill's telling us that this is life preserving, is how important this portion of our work is going to be. So he just said it doubly. It's vital to my life and it's a crucial, necessary action item, right? But he's also given me another intention, strenuous. Do you have strenuous to identify?
Strenuous, characterized by vigorous assertion as action or efforts.
So I'm going to be writing vigorously, right? And I am going to have a hard, heavy effort put to looking at myself, okay? So one thing he says in the things in ourselves which have been blocking us, I want everybody to picture this, okay? I want you to imagine a large pipe, a conduit. And on the other end of that pipe, you have the concept of your higher power, whatever you want to call God, okay? And the light emanating from this higher power is the source of all of your peace and the abolishment of our addiction. That washed with this wonderful energy of life. You have the mind that understands. You can build the attributes. You can write down and list all the definitions of exactly what that higher power is and its attributes. But you have this light coming through this conduit. I'm on the other end of it. Every single time you lied, every single time you got mad, every single time you stole, every single time you got hurt, every single time you got afraid, a little brick was built. And you have built up and blocked this conduit. So even though you have the mind and knowledge of this higher power, the light that is the source of your change cannot get through. This is what I want you to imagine when you're picturing the things that have been blocking us. We're here to face and get rid of these bricks so that power can flow through us. And this is why it's so important to identify every single brick. I want you to imagine, what's that?
Every single what?
Every single brick that's been blocking us. So he says we're going to get down to the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. So I mentioned these little bricks. They were built, blocked us up every single time something went down. So now imagine your higher power benevolent millionaire. Okay? And I say to you, come to my house tonight and bring all your debt. I'm going to pay it all off tonight. How many of you guys are going to bring everything? How many guys are smart enough to make some stuff up on the way? Okay? We're going to have a check writing party tonight. So you come over with all your debt, and I write a check and pay it all off tonight. How do you feel? How do we sleep tonight with all of our debt paid off? Give me a loud that's how we feel, right? Financially debt free. And but you're embarrassed. There's a few big things that you're too embarrassed to bring, so you leave them at home. And so I look at you and go, how do you feel now that you're financially debt free? And you look at me and go, I feel okay. But you still owe, and you're keeping it a secret. So I want you to know that every single thing that you write on this paper, every single detail of your life that you write in this 4-step is like bringing that debt to your higher power. And so ultimately you're going to hear things like honestly and all over and over and over again. It's not okay just to do a piece or a big picture look at me. I have to get granular. If you bring all of it, we are not only going to get financially debt-free, we're going to get financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically debt-free. It's going to be a powerful change. And we're bringing it. So every single thing you put on that piece of paper, you're going to bring before your God and before another human being, and you have a chance to face and be rid of the things that are blocking us.
How granular?
We'll go through it, and you'll find out quick. Yeah, pretty granular. All right, let's get it on.
So our liquor was but a symptom. We had to get down to the causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process.
So I want you to imagine, anybody here ever had the beautiful experience of working fast food or working in a restaurant before? It's super awesome. Okay. Now I want you to imagine one of the regular weekly responsibilities is to go in and count the cups. Count the cups, count the sporks, count the meat, count the plates, count the bags, count the toilet paper, count everything. When you walk around with a clipboard and a pen, if you have too much inventory on the shelves, you have money wasted on the shelf. If you do not have enough inventory for clients, you lose money because you can't deliver. This is a fact-facing, fact-finding mission. In no way do you walk around getting emotionally attached to the fact that you found some bad tomatoes. This really is just about running a better business, being more effective and being efficient. So when we sit down with sponsees, I typically look at them and say, this is not going to be an accounting of how awful you are. This is going to be a fact-facing, fact-finding mission to allow you to have access to the power that is going to allow you to become the human being that you want to be. We all have our stuff, but we have to be able to look at everything. So we're going to take almost like this automaton look at the facts in our life without having emotions attached to it. Okay?
It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsellable goods.
Okay, that's an action item.
To get rid of them promptly.
That's an intention.
And without regret.
Which is also an intention. So if I see a rotten tomato sitting in the barrel with the other tomatoes, what am I going to do with it?
Get rid of
Why would I want to get rid of that bad tomato? It's going to make them awful. So I am going to look at aspects of myself that are not benefiting me, and my goal is to notice them, identify them, and get rid of them promptly. That's the whole point of this. That's all there is. Okay?
If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives.
Action item.
We took stock honestly.
Okay, we took stock and intentions honestly. So I want you to understand the two different kinds of forms of honest. Do you have honesty defined by any chance?
I do. Truthful, sincere, genuine, or unreserved, honorable in principles, upright and fair, genuine, I already said.
That's nobody in this room. Okay, so so here what I want you to do. Honest, two different kinds of honesty. There's two different kinds of dishonesty, omission and commission. So commission is when I straight up look at you and I say I did not steal that. Where were you? I was at the library. Okay. Commission. Many of us have commission. I know members that have actually gone to prison dishonestly in their share, just so they can kind of bring up their pedigree in Alcoholics Anonymous. And really their jail term was about 4 hours of drunk take time. Doesn't make any sense, but I've seen it happen, okay? That's commission. Omission is where I have that secret in my head that should be shared and I do not share it. So he's telling me right straight up, if I want the results that we're talking about, I am going to take stock honestly. I am not going to add to my story, and I am not going to not add that portion of my story. I'm going to get what portion of my life story down? All. And this is critical. You're going to hear this word over and over again. You hear two words: all of my life story and honestly. All of my life story and honestly. If you want the results that the big book talks about, you actually have to use the actions and intentions that it describes in the precise formula. So we have to be honest. You're going to have to not be committed, and you're not going to have to omit. Okay, keep going.
First, we search out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure.
So you hear always, always, always. We don't know why we drink. We don't know why we drink, but we've said we're going to get down to the things blocking us, down to the causes and conditions, and down to search out the flaws that are causing our failure. So apparently, the real secret of why we drink is somewhere in this 4-step.
Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestation.
And if you've done a 4-step, how many times did you do that with your sponsor? Sit down and let's just talk about selfishness. What are the different ways that selfishness can manifest? Can anybody give me some ideas? If selfishness is primarily self-centered fear, go ahead.
It's just pride.
Pride, what else?
Self-pity.
Self-pity. How about jealousy, anger, resentment, manipulation, procrastination, right? So give me some more. Can anybody think of some other ways that selfishness is actually manifested in your life? Control all day long. What else?
Self-seeking.
Self-seeking, 100%. What else?
Self-justification.
All day long. Righteous indignation, self-justification, denial. These are all selfishness. So we say I was selfish. No, selfish is kind of the root. And underneath selfishness is another emotion. And what is that emotion? Fear. Fear is the culprit that sits underneath selfishness. Who am I afraid for?
Me.
Myself. My mother is dying. My mother got her cancer. She had stage 4 cancer. I was afraid for who? Me, losing my mom, because there's a woman dying every single minute, and I'm not concerned about them. It's my mom that's passing away. This is going to affect who? Me. So I'm really feeling pain and fear for who? Me. My selfishness is the root of my issue, but it manifests in all these cool ways, right? My wife, Al-Anons are awesome, by the way. Any Al-Anons in the room? Okay, great. Let's talk about them. Al-Anons, when they're really afraid, they don't drink. They just start scrubbing grout. Okay, so I can hear the vacuum going on at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear the kitchen being cleaned at 3 in the morning. I know she's full of fear. She feels she's being selfless. Is she being selfish? All day long, because the next day she's tore up. She's tired and destroyed because she was up all night long selfishly drinking, scrubbing grout. Our selfishness can show up even when we're doing benevolent things. You know what I mean? Dad won't come home from church. He goes to church 19 hours a week. He's constantly at church because he's afraid and he needs to be immersed constantly in that process. So we never see him. It's selfish. So we have all these different ways selfishness manifests. So it's even before we've written, it told us to consider its manifestations. This is an action item. Keep going.
Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease.
That's important.
For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically.
Okay.
In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper.
That's pretty plain, right? So we highlight that as an action item. So I typically tell my men that I'm working with, shut the book for a second. Where's your pad of paper and pen? So we're going to do this in order. When it says to do something, we're going to do it. When we've gotten it done, we go to the next thing. So it says we are going to need paper and pen. But next, what are we going to do?
In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry.
All right, here we go. Now this is my favorite thing to talk about when getting resentments. Remember, what portion of our story are we going to share? All. So if I was mad at you, it does not say listed with the resentments that, it does not say listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we are angry. It says what? We're angry. So if I was ever mad at you, you're going to go on my list, right? So I have to start with my people. So I have this sheet of paper and I have this left column and I'm going to put the very first name down. Whose name should go down first? Anybody, any guesses?
Yours.
Yep, me. I'm going right down there. I'm going to leave a lot of lines. Okay, so it's going to go me. I'm going to skip a handful of lines. I'm going to put the next person. And the way I do it is I start with my immediate family. If I know them, if I've lived with them, if I spend any time with them, they're probably on my paper. Yes or no?
Yes.
So, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my brothers, if I spend a lot of time with my aunts, my uncles, my grandmother got on there, my grandfather got on there. Went through all of my immediate family. Then I go back in time to my earliest recollection, and I'm in first grade, and I can remember that, I don't know her name, but that fifth grader that used to bully me, and then it goes into Miss Woods and Miss Evans and Mr. Payne, and it goes I go through my school years all the way up into my first jobs, and then it goes into neighbors, and it goes into the kids that I bumped into at the park, and those bullies at the movie theater, and I'm continuing. If I was upset by them, if I got hurt by them, they're getting on that paper. Whether I know their name or not, I can describe them generally. And then as soon as I get done with that, I'm going through my jobs. Has anybody in here had a job where they didn't get pissed at somebody? That's not possible. So if your resume looks like an NBC lineup because you're a quality alcoholic, you've got a lot of names down, right? I mean, I have not met an alcoholic because I worked here for 47 years. We've got some jobs. So everybody's going to be on that job. And then there's my clients from those jobs that we interacted with. And there's going to be, you get the picture? I had a guy come up to me and goes, I'm done. Here's my names list. It was like 18 names. I'm really not that pissed. And I was like, okay, let's start over again. Because I want you to feel debt-free. We're going to have to get what portion of our story down? All. Strenuous. Rigorous. This is going to be a long writing. And if your fourth step with 9 pages written in 40 type, you're wrong. You're broken. You've missed a lot. As soon as I get done, boy, and if you're prolific and you've been Mr. or Mrs. Casanova, you've got a lot of relationships, right? You've got relationships that get down there. You've got their friends, their boyfriends. You've got friends at parties, that guy that you bumped into at the mall. And then it goes on and on and on all the way down to your kids. And I have never met an alcoholic that does not have all their kids down at least twice on their paper. And I don't care if they're 6 months old, they're on your paper. Right? I had a dude one time, he said, my baby's only 6 months, I've never been mad. You have a child who's 6 months, you should have 4 or 5 lines waiting for that child. Okay, there's a lot of room. You've been mad, you've been upset. So now, once I've got these names down, the next step after people is going to be institutions. What are institutions? They're organizations or groups that have offended me. So I don't care about, and here's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you are prejudiced, bigoted, you have issues that are against the grain. I don't care. If they pissed you off, it's time to get honest and get them on paper. Oh, that perspective may change over time, but I don't care about that right now. I care about you just getting real on your paper and getting in depth and getting your honest story in there. So if it's the IRS, if it's Democrats, if it's Republicans, if it's the Mormons, if it's the Catholic Church, if it's the entire city of Temecula, it doesn't really matter. If it's the police, if it's the fire department, if it's Hoag Hospital, it doesn't matter what that organization is. If they offended you, made you mad, if you raised your voice because they were in your life, they need to get on your paper. What portion of our story we're going to get down? All. And I swear to gosh, then my guys will come back to me and say, I'm all done. And then I'll say, what about that girl that you went on a date with that stood you up? What about that one employee that you worked with that really upset you? What about that uncle that came over and disrupts your entire party? What about that one babysitter that spanked you a little too hard? And they goes, oh crap, I'll be right back. And when they come back in and I start asking those questions again, until they cannot recollect anything, I just have to imagine the natural navigation trail of a human being and just start asking those questions. As a sponsor, I want to encourage you to get as authentic as possible. My job here is to see that this thing said honestly, and it will say the word all your life story over and over and over again. And I know that going in, and I know that we're here to get the things out of the way that are blocking you. So I would be a failure if I don't keep encouraging you to get as many names down as possible until you really just literally can't think of any more. And let's talk about principles. Principles, which most folks do not write down. I'm going to give you an idea of concepts you could not live, okay, or concepts you would not want to live that offend you if it was brought up at the dinner table. I'm a high school dropout, okay? I worked at Google, and every time they talked about advanced degrees, I remember getting ashamed. Mm-hmm. So they would say, and I remember Eric Schmidt, chairman of the board, going, "Hey, where did you get your advanced degree?" And I was like, at Taco Bell University, I drive-through captain. You know what I mean? I'm a high school dropout. And watching Michael O'Shea go, oh. And then there's my principle. Good men get degrees. Good men don't get divorced. Good men don't have a FICO score over 2, okay? Good men don't go to jail. And so if you brought this up at the dinner table, it gives me some pain or some shame. But there's no way to put it on this paper. There's no way to get it listed through the resentment of you or me. I have to find it in those principles or concepts that I wouldn't want to live. You know what I mean? If I'm offended by your prejudice concerning sexual persuasion, I'm going to say, or color, right? Good men are all white, and that offends me. It's like whatever that concept is that you bring into the equation that's going to make my dander go up, I got to get that listed down here. And every single one of us have these. Every single one of us. Right or wrong, prejudice or not, you need to get those principles down that if I brought it up, it would cause you a flare. And we need to get everything down. We need to find out what's blocking us, what's getting our blood pumping, and we need to understand why. Yes?
Could you say triggers?
All day long. Absolutely. Okay, so let's keep going. So we've made this list and you're all done. That first column's all ripe and you have multiple pages of names. Now what?
I wanted to add one more thing that you pointed out that was super important for me when doing my inventories is the word "were angry." Right? Because a lot of stuff I justified in my head, like I was full of shame and it was like, well, I deserve to be treated that way. That stuff would come up and the intention for me was to not have to write as much stuff. But it was also that I really was like, yeah, I'm over that. No wonder they treated me that way. They should have, whatever. And so I tried to leave stuff off by justifying it through my own shame. And so that's something that came up for me that I had to look past. Somebody had to say, but you were angry at him. Put it down. We need to look at that, right? Even though I feel that they were justified in their treatment towards me. So that's just another thought I had to add in there to kind of support that. It says we asked ourselves why we were angry.
Okay, so this is an entire second column. Yes, go ahead.
How do you know how much space to leave?
You know what? That's a really good one. When I write a name down, I start to, this is how slow my 4-step works. I write a name down. I start to imagine in my mind just a handful of scenarios that associate with that name. And that helps me. So I had this really cute stripper wife that used to ride on my handlebars when I was in Mesa. Yeah, I left a lot of names for her. Okay. But then when I wrote down my manager at Taco Bell, I can remember a couple of those scenarios and I left just a few names. So I'm not just writing names. I'm writing names and already starting to imagine that second column and making myself prepared. Now, I really do want to kind of let you know that if Bill was here, he'd have a MacBook Pro. Okay, straight up. He'd probably be using Excel. Okay, we had typewriters back then and a pen and paper, and everybody, that was a duplicable process, and so everybody had a pen and paper. My third 4-step was done on my MacBook, okay, and that was perfect because then I could really organize all those cells perfectly, okay, and I never wasted space. I really believe that if Bill was here today, we'd all have apples here in this room. So, but ultimately, when I'm writing on paper, I try to imagine scenarios before I skip to that next line. Okay, but I'm now going to ask myself what happened. This is my second column. It's not okay for me to say my mother embarrassed me. Okay, I need to be a little bit more descriptive than that. And I can't just say my mom made me mad. My mom was always yelling at me. If there were very specific moments that caused trauma, I'm going to get them down. I'm just not going to write this massive treatise on it. I'm going to write, a handful of words to get to the point. Mom didn't let me beam the grease play, made me watch the kids. My mother was, always nagging me. My mother, never let me put posters on the wall, whatever it may be. I got those things down because each individual thing is it going to affect a different aspect of my instincts. And so like the point is like when we get to that third column, we start to understand that these instincts, these broken instincts in us that really need to be dealt with. And if you don't get the details of the resentment in your paper, at least in some type of kind of like shorthand, we're never going to be able to understand what instincts are super hyperactive that your higher power is going to have to work on. And these instincts, our broken instincts, are really the culprit. Okay? So we're going to fill out that second column, right? And then next, what's next?
In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore, we were burned.
So here we go. So let's talk about these 5 instincts, okay? Personal relations, sex instincts, security instincts, self-esteem, and ambitions. When I was born with these instincts innate. These are instincts that were necessary for me to do well as a human being. I had this security instinct, and if it's balanced, what it taught me how to do was to make money, get shelter, don't pet rattlesnakes. Okay? It taught me how to go after the things that were needful in my world and to avoid the things that are dangerous in my world. But if my security instinct's hyperactive, one way or the other, I'm going to go, climb up Tuckweed's Peak without ropes, and I'm going to ride my motorcycle 180 miles per hour down the road, or blow my paycheck on Disneyland passports because I just don't care. Then it's hyperactive the other way. I'm petrified to go swimming in the water. I don't want to try anything because I'm super, super, super scared. And every single penny, I'm a miser, and I live in this rat trap, and I save every penny, and I don't let my kids have new shoes. I had this self-esteem instinct. The self-esteem instinct was designed to help me have a personal report card to get an idea of accurately where I stand. If my self-esteem is hyperactive, I believe that I am the gift to planet Earth, and I walk around with this fake conceit and ego. Or on the other thing, I feel ashamed and I'm cowering and shy in the corner and insecure. If I had this sex instinct that was designed to help me procreate and continue the human race and find a mate and find relationship and love. And ultimately, if it's hyperactive, I'm out there finding a mate with everyone. You know what I mean? I'm prolific and I'm bonding with everybody physically. Or I'm afraid I've never had a relationship and I hide from them and I can't allow myself to be touched or helped. I have this personal relations instinct that was designed to help me create community, be part of a civilization, to be able to be a team-minded person. And if it's hyperactive, I'm out there conquering the world, or I'm up there living with wolves up in the middle of the Klondike because people are great. I just wish they weren't around, right? And then I have this ambition instinct. This ambition instinct was designed to help me be more, grow more, do more. Just ask those questions. If my ambition instinct's hyperactive, I'm Genghis Khan. I'm going to take over the world, and I'll use any defect to get the job done. Or I'm just going to smoke a lot of pot and watch Captain Kangaroo sit on the couch and wear maroon pants, okay? So you see these instincts they've been affected. I started off perfect, and so they've been broken. But here's the problem with broken instincts. I cannot satisfy a broken instinct with a principle. It's impossible. You cannot scratch the itch of a broken instinct with a principle. I'll give you a straight up example. You have a broken sex instinct, so you deserve more sex and you got a home. And you're going to walk up to her or him, and you're not going to walk up and say, you're right, I am married. And you're kind of ugly, but I'm curious. So let's just try this thing real quick and then never call me again, please. And then come home and have your loved one say, how was your day? Oh, I was hanging out with your brother all day long. You know what I mean? We're not going to be honest. We're going to lie. And if I have an ambitions instinct that's so hyperactive and I'm desperate because my security instinct's desperate for that money that I need because I don't know how my bills are going to get, I'm going to steal, embezzle, or manipulate, or coerce, or I'm going to be afraid and I'm going to step up all night long watching TV because I'm panicked because I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. When my instincts are broken, without proper tools, I'm going to use defects to satiate them. The defects are going to separate me, and I'm going to be blocked. So where's the real culprit? The real culprit is in the fear-based instincts that are defective. So if all you do is go to meetings and hang out in Alcoholics Anonymous and just wait time, your instincts do not get better like a cold. And your defects will just get worse and worse and worse and worse. And ultimately, we're going to go back to the medication that absolves us from that pain. I'm going to have to do something to understand what's broken in me. And then I'm going to have to take some action items to allow the process for them to heal and grow and change. Does that make sense? Can everybody understand so far? So now, watch this. I've got this first column, these names, these principles. The second column, what they did in data form. Now I get to ask this question. When Mr. Brown gave his attention to my wife, what was affected? Was my ambition instinct affected? No. Was my security instinct affected? No. He says my self-esteem and my sex relations were affected. I get to ask this question of every single resentment data point. When Lisa cheated on me, did that affect my self-esteem? Would you guys say yes or no? Yes. Did it affect my personal relations? She cheated on me with my best friend Sean, yeah? Yes. Did it affect my security instinct? Yes. Did it affect my ambitions, it's my desire to have a better family and be married forever? Did it affect that, yes or no? This is why those experiences are so profoundly painful. They strike at almost every instinct. When I was fired from my job from small little embezzlement at Kentucky Fried Chicken, did that affect my security instinct? Yes. Did it affect my self-esteem? Yes. Did it affect my ambitions instinct? I wanted to be crew leader. Did it affect my sex relations instinct? Not really. Lisa was like, oh, you got fired. Go get a job at Burger King. You know what I mean? This is a personal evaluation. This is not a you got the answer right. This is you asking, when this happened to me, was this instinct affected? Guess what's going to start shaping up? You're going to start noticing that more than often than not, one or two or three of these instincts are constantly going to be the culprits being affected in your life. Then you're going to start noticing that you use certain defects as assets to support that broken behavior, that broken pain. And now you're going to get a much better fact-facing, fact-finding experience looking at yourself. As opposed to, he hurt me, I did this, let's go make it right. Does it make sense? Yes? Okay, so we are going to have three columns. I'm going to have this names list, what they did, and every single data point I'm going to ask myself those 5 questions. When this happened, did it affect this instinct? When this happened, did it affect that instinct? Did it affect that instinct? Did it affect that instinct? It's very cathartic to sit there and ask yourself, gosh, when this happened, what was hurt inside of me? Okay? Once you have these 3 columns done, right? And they've even got a nice little picture here on page 65. Bill's done a nice job for us. What's the next sentence we're going to go through, Dan?
We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty.
Look at that. Here we go again, right? So your sponsee comes up to you and goes, 3 columns, what? Done. And what you're going to suggest that they do? Go back and look at it again. I want you to go back through every single name and make sure you got the names done. I want you to go back one more time to that list and ask each name if there's something missing that they did to you that you didn't get on your paper. I want you to ask yourself if you found missing things. How many of you guys have actually done a puzzle? Anybody in here do puzzles? 2,000 piece puzzles, 500 piece puzzles? How many times did you sift that box to find those corners? And they just materialize. How do you find those edges over and over and over again? I think this puzzle's missing pieces. And then go back and find them again. I guarantee you've gone through 1 pass of your life, you've gone through 2 passes. I send you back and you go, what did John do to me besides this? And you go, oh, that's right, he did this and he did that, and you'll get it down. So this is another action item. Go back through your life, and that means pull the paperwork out and ask yourself, are these all the names? And then if you can ask that question, and then each name, is this all she did? Is this all he did? Is this all they did? And if they can get even one or two more things on there, you're cleaning out your pipe even better. And then ask yourself what instincts were threatened. And then now you're done, you come back to your sponsor, I did find a few more things, and I believe I'm done.
When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong.
This is a beautiful thing. If you're a good sponsor and they've just finished this thing, considering it carefully is actually an action item. I'm not talking about adding names now. I'm now talking about these 3 columns. Look at these instincts. It's my ambition instinct that keeps showing up. Look at my self-esteem instinct keeps being the culprit over and over again. God, I have a problem in my security. You're starting to really look at this document and you're not focusing so much on the people anymore or even on the harms. You're starting to notice, look how I'm made. I get offended. Guys, I can tell you straight up, when we get into fears, you'll understand this, but men and women, Alcoholics Anonymous can seem very, very spiritually, profoundly, powerfully peaceful. You watch them go through something significant that would make you crumble, and then walk around going, let go, let God. Let go, let God. All right? Wow, they almost shine. And then that same person goes home, and the bowls are in the glass cabinet, and they lose their snot. Yes? What offends you might not offend me. And so you think I'm real spiritually balanced and peaceful because I'm going through something that would really rock your socks, and I'm walking around going, it's so great. Isn't sobriety wonderful? I'm so peaceful. You know, hey, you should do the steps like me. But then you see them at home, and the kids from the neighborhood are riding across their lawn on their bicycles, and they're out there with pellet guns shooting them. So just know that we all have our own kind of offenses because my instincts are not yours. So there is no like one shape fits all. I have to find out what's wrong with who? With me. And recognize that the worst thing that can happen to you might not offend me like that. And the thing that you think would be just easy rider can keep me up all night long. I got stage 4 cancer. I looked really peaceful, but I'm hyper-suicidal. You know what I mean? I was a schizophrenic child that wanted to die, so I walked around going, this is going to be great. Hey, look, I'm dying. And it's kind of addictive because people like hand you things like, you know what I mean? Like remote control will be right there. I'd be looking at Gina like, can you hand that to me? Thank you. Oh, I'm dying. You know what I mean? And everybody at the meeting was like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear this, you know? But I wasn't really scared or upset with my stage 4. When I lost all my stuff, when I got sued for every single thing I owned and I went back and lost everything I owned, I was a basket case. And nobody walked up to me and said, hey, sorry to hear you lost all your stuff. You know what I mean? Gosh, can I help you? You know, it was just like, dang, sucks to be you, right? And I couldn't sleep at night because I lost my stuff. You might not care about stuff. You lose all your stuff and you're like, that's just the way the world works, you know? And all of a sudden you find a weird spot and you can't sleep for a month. Yes or no? So we don't put anybody's fears down. We don't minimize anybody's situation. Your dog dies, that could be the worst possible pain you've ever had in your life. My grandson died on May 18th this year. He was 2 years old and drowned in my pool. That was the worst pain I ever felt in my life. What happened to you, what happened to me, nobody wins the prize on the most pain. Nobody. Okay? So what's the next thing we're going to do?
To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got.
Heck yeah.
The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness.
Okay, here Bill goes. He's gonna like really speak redundantly because he really wants you to understand that resentment is bad. Yes? Yeah. If you read this paragraph, Bill's really gonna get into it. So let's get into the words and really hear Bill what he's trying to say, how bad resentments are.
Where exactly are you?
I'm on page 66. I'm in the second paragraph where it says, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. What is futility?
Futility is incapable of producing any results, ineffective, useless, not successful.
You are in an absolutely resultless, a useless, ineffective life. That's how bad your resentments are. Futile. Me and Mike Tyson going into a ring, okay, with my arms tied to my side. Futile. Futile. Like me trying to fly up Mount Everest. Futile. Useless. Incapable. Okay? And unhappy. So he's saying if you have resentments, you now have a useless, worthless, impossible life that is full of unhappiness. Go get it. Then what does he say?
To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile.
When you see the word permit, I want you to imagine this. You know that resentment is going to make your life useless and unhappy. It knocks at the door, you open it up, and you go, hi, resentment, come on in. You literally let it in. You say, come on in. And then it sits on the couch with you, and you literally just squander. What does squander mean?
Squander is use up, waste, throw away, consume.
So you literally just destroy and waste your entire life all day, all night as you sit on the couch with this resentment that you just let in the front door. Okay? Then next, what's the next thing?
That's a good question. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave.
How grave is death? Yes? Death. I don't know how much more dead than you need to be than dead, but he says the word infinite. How big is infinite? So monumentally and perpetually beyond measure deathly. So resentment is now leading to a completely wasted, useless life of unhappiness. I permitted it, I let it in. We're sitting there hanging out together. I'm completely wasting every inch of my time, and it is now going to kill me infinitely. I go die. Okay? Now what?
We found that it is fatal.
I just died again. I mean, come on, like you're really studying this. Bill was like just really shouting, like, don't let it happen, right? Okay, what else did he say?
For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit.
Harbor, I want you to think of when I talk to my safecrackers and my thieves up on the mountain, they get the concept of harbor, okay? So I want you to imagine everybody's looking for resentment. The dogs are out, the lights are out, they're exploring, trying to find and capture resentment. But I've let resentment in. I've closed the blinds and I'm holding him behind the couch. Shh, get down. We won't let anybody find you. And I'm feeding it and sheltering it and covering it and caring for it. It's just kind of how you know that we harbor resentment. When you go to a meeting, people go, hey, how you doing? Fine. How you doing? Great. You know what I mean? Is there anything wrong, honey? No. Everything's fine. I'm harboring my resentment. So I've let it in. I'm squandering my life. I'm going to go die. I have a completely useless and unhappy life because I've done this. And I'm caring for it and hiding it from the world. Okay? And then what?
The insanity of alcohol returns and we drink again.
Yeah, so before I die, I go crazy again. And now the first thought to my mind is, wow, I should have a drink. Okay? Next?
And with us, to drink is to die.
Yeah, so die. All right. How many of you guys put by raise of hands are kind of getting a sense these resentments are resentment bad? Put your hands up. Bill said resentment, number one offender, and we're going to die 3 times in an unhappy, useless, squandered life. And we're harboring it, we let it in, and we're taking care of it and caring for it. Yes? Okay. Then he gives us this responsibility. What does he say?
If we were to live, we had to be free of anger.
I tried that. Have you tried that?
Yeah.
Have you sat there and gone, don't be angry? That's way up there with, I am going to love you. Don't be afraid, right? This doesn't work, yes? So Bill's like, you let it in. You're destroying your life by having it. You shouldn't be angry. You should be free of anger. So people say things like, just turn it over. Just turn it over, man. Give it to God. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, okay, great. God, you can have it. I'm still pissed. What are we going to do? He says, I need to be free of it. What am I going to do?
The grouch and the brainstorm are not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison.
We found the thing that's killing us. Okay.
We turn back to our list, for it held the key to the future.
Okay.
We were prepared to
This is an action item, by the way, guys.
We were prepared, yeah, that is an action item. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoings of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill.
I love this part, okay? Most of you, I'm just going to say, because if you're like me, you're nuts. And we have self-delusion. It's in our 62 reading every day. And we actually believe our head. Like, you deserve to be that angry at that person for that. I watched one member of my family get incredibly mad at the other one because they washed 2 towels. Okay, so it just makes no sense. But I was at my robber's roof the very first time I went to that meeting. I didn't know anybody. A bunch of convicts everywhere trying to figure out why I'm in this meeting. And I decided I'm going to make friends. And so there's a guy right about where you're at, an old timer, comes walking by and I go, hey, buddy, I'm going to make a friend. And he looks at me and just turns away and disses me, completely ignores me and goes away. I remember I was so offended that night. I was up in arms. I'm driving home with my new sponsor, and I'm like, Bob, I don't understand. You told me this is a great meeting, and I'm here. I'm a brand new guy, and I just said hi to this guy, and he completely ignores me. I don't understand. Don't you know I'm a new guy? I'm petrified. I need friends, and I need your help, and I'm reaching out. Where's the head of AA? I was going on and on. Bob's like, wow. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry that you went through that. And so the next week I come to that same meeting. I go, this time I'm going to go out of my way to make friends with that same guy. You know what I mean? So I'm standing there and he walks right in front of me and I go, hey, old timer. And he just walks right by me, completely ignores me again to my face. And now I'm screaming inside. I'm driving home. I'm never coming to this meeting again. I don't want anything to do with these guys. I mean, I literally went out of my way. I turned the cheek and tried this again, and he dissed me for a second time. But I was like, doesn't sound like anybody at the Roost. Maybe next time you should point him out to me. So the third week, last chance, I'm going to give the Roost a chance. And I walk in and I go, see, it's him. And Bob goes, oh, he's deaf. I spent 3 weeks pissed off at an entire group of Alcoholics Anonymous because one guy apparently was ignoring me. And the reality is, I'm just self-deluded. You see, it doesn't have to be real. My resentment doesn't have to be based on fact. It only has to be perceived. The moment I have this resentment, I'm done. And I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. I got a lottery ticket and I won. Woo! I won. I'm so excited. And immediately I drop a 20-pound sledge on my open toe. And I break my toe. What am I thinking about? My toe. I'm hopping around going, ow, ow, ow. And this just goes away. And that's how fast resentment turns me off from the miracles and gifts of my higher power instantly. And I need to get rid of that. So what are we going to do? How are we going to do this?
How could we escape? We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol.
Yeah, so don't try that.
This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick.
That's actually an action item.
Though we did not like their symptoms and the way they disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant to sick friends.
That's an action item. I had a friend, there's a Signal Hill in Long Beach, the collapsible water tower. Jamie Hill's father, who was at that point the president of the Mensa chapter here on the West Coast, a really smart man. He designed it. He was the engineer that designed it. I remember my wife and I at that time having dinner with Jamie and her mother and her father, who had brain cancer. Brain cancer had been so severe, it reduced him to the emotional and mental age of about 2. And I remember as we're having dinner, he's up on the 2nd story banister, throws down a loaded diaper, okay, his diaper, on the table, all right? I thought it was hilarious, but Jamie's mother did not, and she freaked out. That's it. I'm tired of this. I hate him. I am so done. And Jamie looks at him, I will never forget it. She goes, Mom, he has brain cancer. He cannot help it. Just love him. And I have held that image in my mind over and over again when I read these words. As an alcoholic, they're crazy They cannot help it. This person is insane. This person is afraid. This person is out of their mind right now, and they need my patience, my help, my support. And I just tried to pray that prayer. God, please help me show this person the same tolerance and pity and patience that I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Okay? And then, keep going. When a person offended, we said to ourselves,
This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done.
now I want to take you on a journey. Go with me to page 552. Oh, we're walking out of the very first 164. Oh no. Oh no.
It's in the order.
552. There is a story, and I will tell you more about the author after we read this because it's pretty deep stuff. Freedom from bondage. And if you read right in the second paragraph, he said in effect, the female author of this read it in a religious magazine. She thought it was pretty cool. Okay, she printed it in her story. If you have a resentment you want to be free of. Do we want to be free of a resentment? Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. If you will pray for the person or the thing that you resent, you will be free. If you will ask in prayer for, ready for this? Everything you want for yourself to be given to them, you will be free. Ask for their health, their prosperity, their happiness, and you will be free. Even when you don't really want it for them and your prayers are only words and you don't mean it, go ahead and do it what? Anyway. Do it every day for 2 weeks and you will find you have come to mean it and you want it for them. And you will realize that where you used to feel bitterness and resentment and hatred, you now feel compassionate, understanding, and love. My partner Craig and I used to have fist fights out in the parking lot. And we had a legal battle after we both made this 7-figure haul. We were done. We were retired. He decided to sue me for a little bit of embezzlement. I seem to have a pattern with that. And then when I sat down with him and said, what would you like to have? He said, I want everything you own. When he asked for this, my mother was dying of cancer in my house. My wife had MS, and I was dying of cancer, and I had 3 little kids. And I looked, he want everything I have. And I remember he took it. I said, done. And he asked me if he thought he had been fair. And I said, I didn't come here to get fair. I came here to get free. I remember saying those words to him. And I paid him everything. I was so mad at him. And I had some really sick members in my home group that were like, you want me to take care of it? And in my head was like, that seems really good right now, you know what I mean? Then somebody pointed this out to me. And I was like, what? Pray for him what? I like that part, pray for him, he's a sick friend. God, please help me not kill Craig, he's sick. Right? Help me cheerfully grant him the same patience and tolerance I would a sick friend. But instead, I had this new prayer given to me, and this was pointed out to me by a Catholic priest, a cussing priest from Hell's Kitchen, 20 years of sobriety. He said, nope, you're going to pray for him everything you want for yourself. So this looks like this. Dear God, give Craig health and sobriety and abundance and love, and help his children respect him and help him to have joy and happiness and purpose in his life. And it came out spitting like this, like vinegar. I would say in the morning, I would say it at night, because I was told to. And I did it every day. And about 5-6 days in, I started noticing I was saying things like this, and help him to be sober, and help him to sleep at night, and help him to find God and a relationship with his higher power that is strong. And by 2 weeks later, I was like, and I hope his kids are doing great. And all of a sudden, it was just done. And that became a new thing for me. Every single time I would go into the account and see my wife had just spent all the money. Dear God, give Gina money. Just not mine. And give her abundance and love and joy. And I would just start praying. It's just part of my process, okay? But then I remember, like, why? Why is this working so well? So let's go to page 230. And we're going to go into Jim Burwell, who was the very first atheist in Alcoholics Anonymous, who wrote The Vicious Cycle. Okay? We're going to try to get some Google insight from Jimmy, who had a 2-step program called Get Sober, Help Others. And he was the very first alcoholic that used to come to the podium and go, hi, my name is Jim, I'm an alcoholic, and there's no God. And I actually have letters from him to Bill saying, I know you were having those prayer meetings holding hands going, Dear Jesus, kill Jim. Okay? But he's the reason we have God as we understand him in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he was pretty honest here. If you look right in the middle of this long, ego-ridden paragraph, he says, if you see where it says, in telling newcomers, you can look right in the middle, in telling newcomers how to change their lives and attitudes, all of a sudden I found I was doing a little changing myself. Now remember, he says, I've been too self-sufficient to write a moral inventory. So he never wrote a 4-step. He was like, I'm sober, let's go help some. So he would sit and look at you and go, you need to write a 4-step. You should take an inventory. And he would point out, and this is why. Your ego, and you're full of pride, and you need to go to more meetings, and you need to get honest. And he would start saying these things to them. It says, as I had been too self-sufficient to write a moral inventory, but I discovered it in pointing out to the new man his wrong attitudes and actions, that I was what? Really taking my own inventory. And then if I expected him to change, I would have to do a little changing of my own. What I spot, I got. This is where it came from. So he was the big guy that would say, take the inventory of your wife. Take her inventory. Write down every single thing on a piece of paper that's wrong with her. Just write every single thing. And you'll write a big list, guys. Don't worry. Flip it over, and then imagine yourself her sponsor and write down every single thing that she should do if she could take direction. And then scratch off her name, put your name down. Now you know exactly what's wrong with you and what you need to do about it. And you're looking at that guy in the meeting and saying, God, he's so full of ego. Where am I in ego? You're such a liar. Where am I lying? Why are you so lazy? Where am I procrastinating? Every single time you're looking at that person, you're really looking in a mirror. So imagine the mirror. So let's take that mirror concept. I give sobriety. I try to give sobriety. What is happening to me in the mirror? Just everybody show me what I look like right now. Give me your hands. Show me your hands right now. Just do what I'm doing. As I give it to you, this is how it's given back to me. And as I hold it, now do what I'm doing. It's taken from me. So as I just sit in a meeting and I take the information, it's taken from me. As I give it, it's given. So here's this. I hope you die. I hope you get yours. I'm so pissed at you. I hope they find out about you. Da, 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 da. Who am I really talking to? Myself. So now I pray for you. I hope you have abundance and sobriety and health and love. And who am I really praying? Yes, myself. What I spot, I got. And this is another phrase. You will get what you give. You want love? Give love. You want sobriety? Give sobriety. You will only get what you give. So if you give vinegar, we're getting ready to drink it. And I have to be rid of resentment. And here's the problem. Now you've been given 2 tools to get rid of it. And if you choose not to use it, you're insane. Ha. Futile, unhappy, squandered, useless, pathetic life that you harbor. And you can choose to do that, but you now have 2 tools that you can use to kind of get through this. You can pray for them as a sick friend, or you can pray twice a day, however that works. But here, let's go back to our inventory. And we're just 10 minutes away from our break. Let's go back to our inventory. And it says
67.
Yep.
So we avoid retaliation or argument.
That is actually an action item.
We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chances of being helpful.
If you're yelling, are you in principle? If you're cussing and yelling and screaming, are you in principle? No. You are in fear. You're like, oh, come on, a little cussing. Yeah, right? You can blow some F-bombs out there telling a funny joke, but if you're yelling at somebody and you're wagging your finger at them, are you in principle? You're in self-centered fear. If you're manipulating, if you're going for vengeance, if you're being caustic, if you're backbiting, talking behind them, character assassinating, are you in principle? Yes or no? No. Some aspect of your instinct's been threatened and now you're using defects to protect yourself. And you are now blocked from your higher power, whatever that may be. End of story. So you avoid retaliation. This is an action item. Then what?
We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes.
How do I put those out of my mind? See, watch this. That's an action item. It doesn't mean like this, okay, just forget what you've written about them. Now let's look at you. It literally means put the pain and anger out of your mind. And here's how you're going to do it. There's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people on your list that you're still angry at. That means you need to go back and do those fears, those prayers. Before you write your fourth step, your fourth column, we're going to free ourselves of that pain. So you can do the prayer on page 552. You can use the prayers that are right here on this page of 67. But you're going to now put them out of your heart and your mind. You're going to free yourself from that grouch and brainstorm before you write your fourth column so that you have a clear mind. Put them out of your mind. If they're still in your mind, it's because you saw the resentment burning. Yes?
So like you were saying a second ago about cussing and yelling at people and not living in principle. So when you put it right here, putting out of our minds the wrongs that others had done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. Then we're back in principle.
All day long.
Yeah.
If I no longer have self-centered fear ruling me, and I've kind of put these, and I've abated these resentments through my prayers and tools, found a tolerant and kindly way of looking at those issues. And now what I do is I turn that magnifying eye off of you and what you've done to me and put it back onto myself, not as a way to look at me as pathetic or broken or bad, but as a way to try to heal and grow and change and unleash me. I'm going to now find the specific things that I've done well. This is the cornerstone for your 8th step, which is the cornerstone of your 9th step, which is the freedom step, right? If you do not do a quality 4th, you're going to have a really lackluster 8, 9, and then when you get to your 10th step, you're always going to be in pain. You're learning, by the way, guys, you're going to do a 10th step, and I'm going to shatter your perspectives right now of doing it in your head. Okay? What does the word continue mean? Continue to take inventory. It says that right there. Continue to take personal inventory. How are we taking inventory right now? With pad and paper. We're doing paper and pen, and we're looking at ourselves and asking ourselves what instinct was threatened. And then we're doing these prayers to free ourselves, and then we're finding our part, and then we're going to share that with someone. It says to continue to do that. And that means that I'm going to need a pad of paper and pen for my daily 10 step. You're going to be journaling perpetually. You're going to be looking at yourself throughout the day and inventorying yourself and asking questions like, was I resentful? Was I afraid? And if you're resentful, you're going to do a 4 column on it. This is me. This is the person that offended me. This is what was it they did. And this is what instinct was threatened, and pray for them. Find my part, make it right, get over it. This is practice, man. You're cleaning yourself out, and what you're doing is learning how to use this tool. There's no thing called accomplishing the steps. I mean, I hear people say it all the time. I did my steps. I don't even know what that means. You don't do your steps. You use them. So we're going to learn here how to continue to use them, so we better be thorough now, or we're going to have a lackluster performance for the rest of our sobriety. Right? So, what's our next step, Dan?
So, where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though the situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person's involved entirely.
So the 4th column, my mother was so rude to me, but I did crush Valium and put them in her soft drinks and knock her ass out so I could steal her car. There was that. I used to steal money from her purse and lie to her and not tell her where I was at. And I dropped out of school, and I had this really cute little girl's bicycle that I used to ride around on with my trench coat when I was homeless in the park. So I was the poster child for firstborn, right? I was arrested so often it was a mode of transportation. So she was super proud. And so, I could think of all these things that I'd done to my mom to cause her disease and cause her pain. And many of these things weren't associated with the fact that she wouldn't let me be in the grease play. I yelled at her, I back-talked her, I cussed at her in the bedroom without, when she wasn't around. So I had all these things that I'd done to mom. But then there's that babysitter, right? See, there's that babysitter at 6 years old that molested me. Now, what's my part? What is my part in that? I'm a 6-year-old little boy, and I'm molested, which is common. It's a common thing that's happened to a lot of us. But what's my part? Well, my real part in that was nobody knew what was going on until I started complaining that my body hurt. So I never confessed or talked or was never honest about it. And so that was my part. And that became a lot. That happened a lot in my inventory, where some of my parts were just, I was stabbed in Townsend Junior High by a gang in the bathroom. And it had just been just a while earlier, I'd been thrown in a trash can by that same group. I made the mistake of telling my dad. He called the principal, and they called everybody in the room. They suspended those kids for 3 days, and then they stabbed me in the bathroom. So I learned a lesson. I started to learn dishonesty as a way to protect my own life. You see? So I still let fear be the master of my actions. And you will see that throughout my 4th step, that I have used fear, and I have used dishonesty, and I have used all these other broken assets as a way of protecting my own life, or getting the things I need to get, or keep me out of jail, or to keep me in the relationship that was wrong for me, right? You know? So I am going to go back and look at all this inventory, and I guarantee you, almost inevitably, I have a part of some kind. There are situations where I don't have a part. They are rare. They are significant. They are painful. And if you have a sponsor that has that, then you should be sympathetic and compassionate. But they're not very often. Sometimes, like, you know, the rape, the molesting, the abuse, the child that was killed, right? It's like I have when my grandson was drowned, I called a good member of Alcoholics Anonymous I spoke with at the Southern California Convention. His son was killed, stabbed to death. And he had the experience I wanted to tap into, so I called him on the phone, and he sponsored me through that experience. He showed me how to help my family. He showed me how to get through that, right? Because he had that experience, strength, and hope. What was his part? You know, what was his part in that experience? How did he cause his son's death? He did it. But remember that resentment part? That resentment, him and I talked about that. That resentment that he held on to squandered his life, cut him off from God, and made him useless to his own family. He stopped speaking for a year. He was in real pain. And it was his responsibility to free himself of that. So he found the tools, and he found a way to find balance and get back, so he could be back and useful in his life and be a member of his family again. He didn't kill his son, but he needed to free himself of that anger. Does that make sense? The 4th step is beautiful. The 5th step is absolutely beautiful. But if we don't get granular, if we don't really get into the details, we really don't get to know ourselves very well. And we never will let anyone else.
But that could sound really overwhelming. So, I mean, like, where do you
draw the line?
Yeah. I can see how this can go on for the rest of your life until you die, which is obviously we find home.
Yeah. I have journals on a daily basis that I journal every single night before I retire at night. They're probably about maybe 3 paragraphs long, because I've cleaned my inventory. So now I just have to keep current on the inventory of the day. And it takes me about maybe 7 minutes, 8 minutes to write it down. And it keeps me current. That's perpetual. As far as my life story goes, it's interesting that the moment you start writing a good 4-step, some of us have dated everybody, okay? So your sex conduct inventory is like centennial, right? Some of us had like one relationship since we met when we were 14 that we married and we stayed with forever. So our sex conduct inventory looks like a bazooka gum wrapper, okay? Some of us have resentment inventories that are this long. I've seen individuals with fears inventory with 146 things they're afraid of, and individuals with 9 things. Here's the cool news. The moment you start writing, you start changing. Doesn't matter when. It's not about like the accomplishment of the fact. It's the moment you begin the process of writing strenuously and vigorously, you begin to change, because you immediately start to notice aspects of yourself and digest chunks about you, and the change begins. When it's time to share it with somebody, there are going to be, we'll go into the 5th step after our second break. After our first break, we'll go into the 5th step, and we'll show you how to share that properly and responsibly, so that you can finally have that intimate connection of having all of your life story connected to with another human being. But right now, you shouldn't pay attention to that at all. You should imagine that all of your secrets are just getting on pad of paper between you and your higher power. And just know that you will safely be able to regurgitate this in content in front of someone else. So it's really not about like whether you have 17 pages or 132 pages. Man, I did a 5th step one time. This guy was neat. And it was like a 15-hour 5-parter. You know what I mean? Like I'll see you next week. You know what I mean? Like it went on and on and on and on and on. But this was his experience, and he needed to go through it. So I listened to every detail. Then I've done 5th steps that were knocked out in 3.5 hours, right? But the bottom line is, this is about completely changing a human being's life permanently. Why? I mean, we went to school for like, see, individuals go to school for 6 years to get their master's degree, but they'll talk about like 2 weeks of writing, like, oh shit. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, it's like there's individuals out there. You spent 12 years in public school, getting through high school, 12 years. I'm sorry you went through that. I hope you're okay. But you should probably give yourself a few weeks to get this done. And be strenuous about it. I watch my kids would spend 3 hours a night doing homework. Have you guys seen these kids now? When I was a kid, it was like a 45-minute, I did it on the bus home, you know what I mean? Now these kids will spend 3 hours doing homework every night for 3rd grade, all right? And I just look at them and go, yeah, it's part of your, keep going, But could you imagine coming home from work and spending 3 hours on your 4-step every night? You'd have it done in a week. You'd have it done in just a handful of days. So don't worry about the body of work. Don't worry about how long it takes you. Know that your change begins the moment you write it. Please don't do it 13 minutes a day. That's not strenuous and that's not rigorous. Follow the words, do the work. You will begin the change. When it's done and you're ready to share it, we'll go through how to share it. So you can be responsible to protect yourself and to have the best experience. We got you. Okay? All right. So you're going to get everything on your 4th column done. Right? And then what's next then?
Yeah, the inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight.
Honestly means you're getting everything down. Yes? What portion of your story is getting on that paper? All. Say it louder. All. Okay. What I'm going to do right now is we're going to stop here at 67. Let's take 20, guys. Eat all my donuts, please. I'll put this on. All right, we're back on. So we're back from our break. What we want to do is we want to get into the good stuff. I think we've gone through some good stuff so far. Let's kind of recap one more time. Ultimately, if we were going to do a workshop on actions, intentions, and results, if that was our goal here today only, we would be reading the book. We'd all have highlighters out, and we'd be slowing down, reading the book line by line, and asking ourselves what every action is, what is the intention, and what is the result. If we were to do that, what would happen is we'd create one big book, and I've done this multiple times, one big book that you have, whether softbound or hardbound, that literally tells you exactly what to do and how to do it and what should happen if you've done it well. And if you can look at if you don't see those promises coming true, there's something missing. And many times it's in intentions. Lots of folks have done steps and service and sponsorship and all those wonderful things, but for some reason they don't feel the fruit that we talk about, and they feel like it's almost like a hypnotist show walking around going, you're feeling something I'm not feeling, I must be different. You can go back to the book and we're like start noticing things that it's describing and it doesn't make sense. Like, so for example, the precise instructions are in this book, but the original members got their steps done in 30 to 45 days. And they were all doing H9 and they were all sponsoring right out of the gate. And so that momentum was carried into sobriety and they immediately have the tools. So you imagine somebody's, who's got a year of sobriety or 10 months or 9 months, and they're still working on their 5th step. They don't have the tools to be able to navigate the rocks that we definitely hit. And let alone do they have the solid feet to be able to kind of withstand it with just sheer grit, right? So when you read words like upon awakening before we retire at night, that doesn't suggest random, that suggests this is how we wake up and this is how we sleep. Day by day with a new man does not suggest I meet with my sponsor once a week. It suggests that I'm working with somebody each day and I'm holding hands, we're locked arms, and we're doing this together, And so as you go through these words, it's up to you right now. I point out that's an action item, that's an intention. I'm just kind of haphazardly giving that to you. But that is a book study all of its own. So I've seen whole themes of book studies happening where just highlighters, actions, intentions, and results. And then I've seen members go back through those highlighted words over and over again and just ask, what does that mean? And get into the dictionary definition of those words and then inventory themselves against that verbiage and identify what they're missing and then go seek it out. Here we're not doing that. Here what we're doing is we're trying to understand the exact meaning of these words and how much we're writing and when we should write, stop, and pray, when we should write, stop, pray, reflect, and then write again. How thick should this fourth step be? And it's really defined by two words, honest and all. That's pretty much tells us how thick the fourth step should be. How thick your fourth step is going to be compared to mine is dependent on the nature of my actions in my own walk. You know, the age and the nature. You know, so I've got a 6'8" schizophrenic with Marfan syndrome, who's legally blind. You know what I mean? Who's 68 years old. You know, his fourth step's cool. You know what I mean? And real thick. But I also sponsor a kid who's 18 years old who started his first drink at 14 and it got real gnarly in 4 years, and his fourth steps is a little bit different. So there isn't really a thickness code as much as just an all and an honest code. So when you start using these words and you start defining the nature of your writing against the words, you catch it. You know, who made you mad? You know, and what did they say or do, and what was affected, and what was your part? And you know, that's what we've kind of gone through. We need to get past this now, because we're now going to get into a whole new word and a whole new inventory. So why don't you start, Dan?
Notice the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Miss Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it.
What does corroding mean?
Corroding
is... Say it.
Where are you?
We're on the bottom of 67. We're just down. We ended with, we were willing to set these matters straight. We just got done writing our fourth column, and we've addressed it. And now we're getting into our fears inventory. So we're in that last paragraph of 67. And he said it was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. And I want to understand what corroding means.
It means wear away gradually, as if by gnawing, to impair or deteriorate.
So I want you to imagine the root of all. If selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our troubles, the root of selfishness is fear. I am the most selfless, generous human being when I have all the things I want. I mean, it just seems so spiritual. I've just got on the other end of a big paycheck. Everybody loves me at home. You know what I mean? I've gotten all of my favorite Christmas presents. You know, my health is on peak and everybody thinks I'm nifty for a second. I'm wearing my favorite outfit. I mean, everything's just killing it. Okay? I am such a generous person at the convenience store when somebody asks me for $1. You know, but the moment you give me fear that attaches to one of my instincts, not yours, mine, my hyperactive instincts, immediately I am knocked off kilter. And depending on the magnitude of what's that scary thing is going to, and my spiritual condition. So if my spiritual condition is here and the fear is here, I'm apt to use defects to navigate through it, right? My spiritual condition is here, my fear is here. I have this hope and this faith that seems to kind of ride me through it, and I can walk around with Yoda countenance, right? But when it's here, I'm going to use procrastination, I'm going to use manipulation, I'm going to use dishonesty, I'm going to use anger, vengeance, denial, I'm going to use jealousy, insecurity, I'm going to use all the things we talked about, which really are just the embodiment of fear showing up as selfishness. Because the only person I'm afraid for is who? Me. And so I'm looking for the things that are blocking me. So what's the root of the thing? The thing that's threatened is my instinct. The thing that threatens the instinct is my fear. What are the things that scare me, right? That's what we want to know. You can walk through your inventory and go, that scared me, that scared me, that scared me. But that's kind of just like missing out on the principles. You're not going to get your principles written down unless you make them an independent inventory. Because there's going to be a lot of people who will offend you who have never actually touched those principles. So those principles had to be written down independently of the resentments of individuals and institutions. Does that make sense? My fears inventory, sure, I can write fear next to all the things I was afraid, just like in the diagram. But without a real proper independent fears inventory, I'm not going to get all my fears down. Because there's tons of things I'm scared of that I've never even experienced. I mean, how many of you guys have died? You know what I mean? Like if you have fear of death, you can't write down I died. You can't write down. If you have a fear of losing your mother and she's still alive, you can't write that down because you haven't experienced it yet. I'm afraid of going to prison. Is there anybody in here that would be nervous if you got arrested today and you face a 10-year sentence? Put your hands up if you were. If you haven't been arrested for, by the way, don't rob a bank. That's an automatic 20-year sentence. Rob Home Depots. They have more cash and it's only 5. Robber's roost, baby. You know what I mean? So the bottom line is you might not have experienced that yet, but it can be on your fears inventory. So there's no way for you to even see that it exists as a fear unless it's an independent fears inventory. So here we are about to write an independent fears inventory. What does it tell us?
Well, it says it's an evil and corroding thread, and then it says it set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve.
I got afraid, so I went. This is my day one day. Lisa told me, this is my first little girlfriend / wife. I'm 18 years old. She tells me electricity is getting turned off today if we don't have $68 before 5 o'clock. So I go to my dad's house. My dad has a large petrol jar from Costco that's filled up with coin. I rob him of $75, okay, in silver coin. So quarters, silver, $50, that kind of thing. I have all this money now, right? But I tell myself I only need 68 and I have 75, so I have $7 left over. So $6 and change is a 12-pack back then. So I find my friend, we get a 12-pack, okay? We go to his house and we keep dipping into the money to go get some more. By the time we're done, the money's gone. I've already robbed my father. Now I'm drunk off my butt and I've got no money and the electricity's getting turned off. So I go to Smitty's restaurant, which is kind of like a Target kind of fast food place. And one of the waitresses, who's a friend of mine, well, I guess I would call her a friend, she puts her tip cup on the table and she forgets it. And I was like, God has answered my prayer and given me the money to pay electricity. So I take the tip cup. There was like $100 in there. She's running around looking for her tips about an hour later, but I've got the money. I'm back at my friend's house going, I've got $100 and I only need 68. The rest is history. The money is gone, the electricity gets turned off, and now I've robbed 2 people. Everybody's looking for me, and the lights are off, and Lisa wants a divorce. It all started off with I couldn't pay my bill, right? When I got my paycheck from Taco Bell, rather than just paying the bill, I decided to party. And so all of my fears have kind of driven me from one circumstance of bad choices to another one. Does that make sense? I don't even want to talk to you about what I did while I was drunk. I'm just sitting here talking about what got me drunk and how long the day was. So fear is this thing that sets in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune, which ultimately we didn't deserve. How did I get myself into this? Right? How many of you guys have actually been in a relationship that you knew after about 9 minutes in the relationship you probably shouldn't live there and you need to leave? Put your hands up. But for some reason you kept like being released like a prisoner of war in the morning to go to work, like set out of the basket, and then you come right back like a homing pigeon, right to the front door and go, I live here. You know what I mean? And you step right back into that wonderful experience. Everybody with me so far? And you do that week after week, month after month after month after month, and then complain about her or him, how awful they are, how terrible it is to be with this person. But you're set free every single morning, and yet you come back every night. Who was the person that was really abusing you? Yourself. I had a 3.5-year wonderful relationship where I had to duck a lot when the frying pans would come at me. And I used to tell my friends, it's horrible. She's horrible. It's awful. You know what I mean? And they would say things like, why do you keep going there? Well, that's where I live. I mean, I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid of going through the drama of the pain of breakup. I was afraid of the consequences of division of family. I was afraid of the financial issues of having to deal with my life on life's terms. I was afraid. And all of my fears set in motions of continuing to open the front door and go, hi, honey, I'm home. You know what I mean? So let's keep going.
But did not we ourselves set the ball rolling?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with
Isn't that
it.
simple action items? Yeah, I imagine my fears. So you can look back through your inventory and see fears shooting through your inventory, and you imagine them thoroughly. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them on paper. Even though they're not in my 4-step, they're not in this inventory of resentment, I need to start listing them. And it says thoroughly. So thorough means what portion of my fears? All. So that means spiders and ghosts. It means spiders and ghosts and prison and cancer. It means scared of heights and scared of going too fast. It means, watch this, fear of getting caught. and fear of a fear of success, fear of failure, fear of not being loved, fear of being abandoned, fear of her leaving, fear of her not leaving. I wish she would. Fear of all these different fears. Fear of the IRS, fear of not having a FICO score, fear of never having a career, fear of getting a career and losing a career, fear of, you know what I mean? On and on and on and on and on. If it would happen to you and it would cause you anxiety tonight, it should be on your list. And I love it because I've had so many men come to me, oh, I'm not scared of nothing. And their little fears inventory is like 8 things. But these are the same guys calling me back up on the phone, pissed or afraid, or I can't sleep at night. Why can't you sleep at night? I don't know where payroll's coming. I mean, if you've been a business person and you've ever been on a Wednesday and payroll's on Friday and you owe 13,000 payroll and you've got $900 in the bank, you know what anxiety is. It's so funny. I remember telling Kip, I don't know where the mortgage is coming from. On the first, I owe $2,700 the mortgage. He goes, you might not have it. Well, if I don't have it, then I'm going to lose my place. Then you don't live there anymore. But if I don't live there anymore, I'm going to end up having to go in an apartment. Then you live in an apartment. But I don't have the credit to get an apartment. Then you're going to live in a van. He kept going on like it was not affecting him at all, man. I was like, by the time I was done, he had me down in a van by the river. And he's like, the river's beautiful. He was like, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. If it's being taken from you, it's not supposed to be held by you, so let it go. And it was like easy for you, you know? Yes.
Is that why you're motivational speaker? You're living by the...
Yeah, that's Chris Farley's living. I'm in a van down by the river. You know what I mean? But the point, the point is like whatever fear you have, it may have occurred or it may not occur, but it needs to get down here. And I'm going to explain something to you. We're going to have to master our fear just like we have to master our resentments. But just like anger, I can't turn it. Let go, let go. How many guys have done that at 2 a.m? Anybody here ever lost sleep over something that you were worried about? Put your hands up. Watching like 900 episodes of The Office, trying to get some sleep, you know, looking at 5 milligrams of melatonin, trying to make a melatonin sandwich, or whatever it is. I get it, okay? And they'll say, read the big book, it's boring, it'll put you to sleep. I'm not going to give you those poor solutions. I'm going to give you an analogy. No one can snap away fear. It doesn't work like that. I know, because if you've had children, and how many of you guys actually have children that you're fully aware of? Because stuff happens. Okay. All right. And a 3-year-old little boy that walks into your room and says, I'm afraid of the dark. I want you to try this. There's nothing to be scared of. You're fine. And have them look at you and go, oh, well, gosh, thanks, Dad. Now that I'm fully aware of that, I feel much better. I'm off to sleep now. I'm terrified. They're terrified of everything. The house settling, everything. Everything's electrified and everything's spooky and everything's haunted and they're about to die and the run to the bathroom is a really tough run, okay? So he comes in, he says he's scared. This is actually happening to me. And I say, no problem, son. What we're going to do is let's just go to your bedroom together and put a nightlight on. And I put a little light on. And I tell him I like to pray before I go to sleep. Why don't we pray together? And I get a little book out with little pictures in it, and I read the book with him, and I stay with him. I say, I'll stay with you until you go to sleep. And he goes right to sleep because he's not afraid anymore because I'm right next to him. And this goes on for a while until eventually he comes back in and says, Dad, I'm scared. I say, no problem. And he said, why don't we pray here at my bed? And we pray here at my bed. He takes his book and he turns his nightlight on and he reads the book himself, but I'm right down the hall. And then eventually he prays and with his book, and he knows I'm down the hall on his own. And eventually he prays with his nightlight on, and eventually he prays, the nightlight's off, and eventually he just prays and goes to sleep. And eventually he's just not afraid of the dark anymore. He sleeps, this little boy is, he's 12 years old, and he sleeps like he's in a coffin. He likes it dark. The point is, my higher power sits right next to me through every single one of those events. And I simply am that little boy saying, hey, I'm scared. And then he sits right next to me, turn the nightlight on, I read the book, and I walk through this process, and I get through it. And it's nerve-wracking at first, but then eventually, inevitably, over time, I can turn the nightlight off. And I'm not afraid, and I can literally scratch that off my fears inventory. But there's no way to learn how to be comfortable in the dark without turning the lights what? Off. So if you have fears on your inventory, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be going through these experiences. You're going to be threatened in these areas in some manner. And we all have to take the perspective that this is my higher power's way of allowing me to practice the art of going through this, holding its hand. And then inevitably, I will grow beyond this fear. And then it'll be checked off my fears inventory. It will be one more thing blocking me removed. But it will take time. So this is not about punishment. Like when the guy calls up and goes, I just don't understand. I had all this money and now I'm broke. I don't know how to pay my bills. Oh, isn't being broke and not paying your bills one of your fears? Yes. Then your higher power is walking you through a lesson, and it's all going to be okay because it's a phantom. 90% of what you're afraid of never going to occur anyways. I don't know how many of you are going to serve 10-year sentences. At least one of you. I think the rest of us are going to be okay. So the point I'm trying to make to you is your fears inventory is a to-do list. And if that scares you, just know this, a to-do list to create joy. I like to imagine that my higher power is all-powerful, which is what it says on 63, being all-powerful. And all power means having all power, which means being in charge of everything that requires power. Yes? That means I'm on a Disneyland ride, watching the Pirates of the Caribbean put on a show, and I'm really not driving the boat. Okay? Knowing that, I also realize that my higher power loves me and is there for me and has a plan, and I'm performing his work well. So ultimately, I have to realize that everything that is happening to me, is actually happening for me. And it's not just for me, it's also for you. It's for my own personal joy and personal growth, and part of the ballet of the plan that is all this thing called this learning burst. So know that your fears inventory is going to be a to-do list. Know that it will be smaller over time. Know that the only way to get comfortable with these things, one of my fears was dying, even though I wanted to die all the time, and then I had cancer. I'm not afraid of dying anymore, and I don't wish it. It's just gone. One of my fears was a fear of losing a family member. I've lost one. I'm not afraid anymore. I think I did okay. Right? One of my fears was losing all my stuff, going bankrupt. I've been bankrupt once. I didn't claim it, but I lost everything down to zero. And I know what that feels like. And everything worked out okay. I actually had the New Jersey syndicate shaking down one of my call centers, and they were on their way over to beat me with bats. I never thought I would have the experience of the mafia coming over to beat me with bats at my office, but I remember calling Kip Collins on the phone, right, and saying, Kip, Richie Mancini and Duvall are on their way over here to kill me, I think. And he goes, oh, that's awful. I'm in the middle of a barbecue. And I go, man, I'm afraid. He goes, what am I going to do for you? What do you want me to do? You want me to show up with some guns and we're going to protect the fort? And he says, remember that time, and he talked to me about Tanis. Remember that time when you held Tanis in your arms when she was first born? I said, yes, they can't take that from you. You remember that time when you looked at your wife and you said, I do? And he said, yeah. He said, they can't take that. You remember that time you said, I want to be sober, and you came in and you didn't drink a whole day? And he said, yeah. He said, they can't take that. And he went on a list of all these beautiful things, and he said, they can't take that from you. They can hurt you, but they can't take those beautiful things from you. Now you pray to your higher power, and you watch a remarkable miracle happen. And he says, I know you're going to be okay because your God loves you. And then he very insensitively hung up on me. You know what it was really beautiful? Richie Mancini and Duvall were coming up from Tijuana, and they had so much cocaine in the trunk of their Cadillac that it was sparking on the ground. And the cops pulled them over in San Diego, and they put them away that very day, and we never saw them again on their way over to hurt me. It was a miracle. I got miracles coming out of my ear and my journals, right? All those things that I thought were going to be just tragic ends actually became miraculous, remarkable examples that there's something amazing out there happening. And that started to give, and that's the only difference between, they say there's no difference between your sobriety and my sobriety. You've got a year and he's got 30. Who cares? We only have a day. No, I have 26 years of miracles. 26 years of going through my fears inventory with my loving God's hand in mine. And I have built a faith that I did not have when I first came here. I don't know the book better than you. My steps aren't better than yours. I don't really have anything more or less than you, but I do have 26 years of miracles that have let me sleep differently than maybe you as a newer person do. Does that make sense? So look forward to that. All right? So we're going to make this fears inventory. What portion of our fears are we going to write down? All of them. And then get ready for this. It says, we asked ourselves why we had them. Isn't this interesting? All I have to do is say, what instinct was being threatened by this fear? Like if you have a fear of heights, what instinct is that? Is that your self-esteem?
Security.
What is it?
Security.
It's security. If you have a fear of public speaking, what instinct is that? Self-esteem. What else?
Ego.
Yeah, but what instincts? We have personal relations, self-esteem, ambitions, right? Sex, and security. What instincts are being threatened by a fear of speaking in front of people? There's definitely self-esteem, yes? But I'm also worried about what you think of me, yes? That's personal relations. And then if I had ambitions of doing a good job or getting a good grade, that's ambitions instinct. So what happens is when you have these fears, you get to start seeing, once again, it's a whole different way for you to see what instincts are being threatened, so you get to know yourself even what? Better. All right, let's keep going.
Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us?
Yep.
Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse.
By the way, being cocky is just ego and pride, which means I'm just afraid anyways. Right? So you watch these people walking in, judging, condemning, walking in prideful, peacocking around. That's just fear. Right? So they're the scaredest person in the room.
Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns. Just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us do and humbly rely on Him, does He enable us to match calamity with serenity.
Okay.
We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spirituality the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength.
This is a result.
The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God.
That's an action item.
We
Can I
never.
back you up real quick?
Absolutely.
What's that?
Can you put that in a different sense with calamity with serenity? Can you rephrase that of how that goes? Can you explain that to me?
He enables us to match calamity with serenity. Okay, so I had a business called ohgolly.com. It was literally around the corner. This is back in 1998 when it went out of business.
Buy.com.
What's that?
Say buy.com.
ohgolly.com. I wish I had buy.com. That'd have been cool. But I had a website business and we were worth $86 million. And then the next thing you know, I was vacuuming up 20,000 square feet, 4 stories with my wife's Oric. Okay? So I just remember the end of that, and I was sober then, right? So I was 5 years sober. So I remember the last week or so, the taxes we had to pay, the final payroll checks we had to deal, all the pet trash that was going on in there, people fist fighting, scrounging for, I had employees taking computers out the back, I'm taking this as my, severance, you know what I mean? It was crazy. And I wasn't sleeping at night because I was looking at Ocean Ranch, it's multi-million-dollar homes, and now I'm going, God, how am I going to pay my rent? And so all that calamity, all of that didn't change anything, right? It wasn't like I made a prayer and then my higher power came in and the president of Sonera didn't die and they bought us, right? It didn't change anything. I still vacuumed up all 20,000 square feet. I still had to do the bankruptcy sale. I still had to do all that stuff, right? So the calamity still occurred, but I was cool. And I just remember vacuuming that. I kept vacuuming up push pins. I just remember that going, taking a push pin out and putting it in the bag, and then vacuuming up and then cleaning off of the counters and the windows, and I was calm. And when it was all said and done, I started another company and just went right back to work. Calamity, sometimes your prayers are not going to make the money show up for rent. not going to make him stay. You know? You think like, gosh, the way he needs to save me is by just taking all the calamity away. So instead, I learned how to be peaceful and accepting during the storm. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It says we never apologize for God. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. We ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be.
Remember that? We let him demonstrate through us what he can do. This is why you will have a responsibility in your meetings. Just so you know, meetings are not what we do. Okay? Remember this. Meetings are not what we do. Go to a lot of them. It's important. But the only reason for a meeting is to go to report on what you do. You're there to report. You're there to say, I drank like this, I felt like that, I used these tools, and this was the result. That's what you're there to do. And as you keep resoundingly documenting the results, the miracles, the tragic turnarounds, you give hope to the new person. That is its inspiration. Without having to control or manage or browbeat, all you have to do is report on what was like, what you did, and what happened now. When I have men do their second step, I have them call 2 or 3 members every single day. They get phone lists, and they ask them to give them examples of how their higher power has shown up miraculously in their life. Don't tell me what your God is. Got no business in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care what your God is. Just tell me how it's shown up and done something miraculous. And they will document these miracles. And then for a week, they have 15 to 20 miracles. So then what we do to the third step, we would just read these miracles, and it makes the third step so much easier to swallow. It doesn't matter what gravity is or how gravity works. Define it wrong, you jump, you fall, right? So it doesn't matter what God is or isn't. It just comes down to these are miracles happening here, man. You know? So ultimately, I have a responsibility to demonstrate to others what my God has done in my life. I was dying of stage 4 cancer. And I remember I'd already had my second surgery, and my partner was at a party and mentioned that I was dying. And some lady he didn't know started burst out in tears. She had that Tammy Faye Baker Christian thing going on, big old fake eyelashes, caked on makeup, and oh dear Jesus, you know what I mean? And she decided to tell him, I need to tell him right now that God is telling me that he needs a third opinion. He should not go to chemo again, right? And I'm like, okay, I get this knock on my door, I'm in my office, you know what I mean? I'm a severe combative agnostic, you know. Jesus told me that you need to get a third opinion. I don't know you, but you should go. And she's got the tears, mascara's running. I'm like, you're a crazy person. Get out of my office. Okay, I don't need all this, man. And then she comes back the very next day like a stalker. I call my wife. I said, I just threw this lady out twice. I can't believe this. And my wife's like, every morning you pray for an inspirational thought, and all of a sudden somebody comes in with a message, and you're just ignoring it because of the messenger. And I go, fine. I'll call somebody for a third opinion. So I decided I'm going to call the #1 skin cancer doctor in the country, right? So I can appease my wife. The #1 skin cancer doctor in the country just happens to be at UCLA Medical, right? Just down the street. And I go, sure. I'm about to go to chemo next week again, and I'm going to call him right now and say, it's Tuesday. When can you see me? Oh, I'll see you tomorrow. So Wednesday I show up, UCLA Medical. Okay, great. I'm going to stay. They make me stay there for a couple of days. And they run reports on me, and they do the diagnostics and x-rays and all stuff. And he comes in with another doctor, and they sit down in their chair, and they look at me, and they're like, I go, oh my God, you guys are really scaring me. They're like, is it advanced? Do I still have a few months left, or am I going? And then it's like, these are your charts from your last, exam. This is, 4.7 millimeters Breslow step. This is lymph node contamination, and this is terminal. These are your charts now, cancer-free. And the doctor looks at me and says, I think you just had a miracle. Oh. And I remember looking at him going, what do you mean? And he goes, see you in 6 months? And that was May of 2005. That was almost 15 years ago. They called my healing a miracle. My mom, who I used to drug, she had she had lung cancer. She was dying. Oh, breast cancer. She had breast cancer. She was dying. She's dead. Bald. Gone. She's giving away all of her things. I moved her into my home. I gave her a car and an allowance. I figured she was gone in 4 months, and I was going to hold her while she transitioned. But instead, she had a miracle healing, and now she won't effing leave. It's like verbal contract, you know what I mean? It's like, I told her she could stay until she died. You know what I mean? It's been 15 years. Mom's healing's a miracle. My healing's a miracle. You know what I mean? The company that I embezzled from, that I got to give up all my money, the CFO from the company I embezzled from became the new CFO of the company that was going to buy my brand new company. I remember Tara Lyko was coming down the hall to buy my new company, and I saw the CFO that I had just embezzled intellectual property from before in a past lifetime. And instead, Ralph Williams, Dr. Ralph Williams, puts his finger out and says, we're buying this company. I remember him saying, we're buying this company. We're a South Coast winery. I remember like it was yesterday, and I was like, looked at him, and Tim Judd and him looked at me and said, we're buying this company. And Ralph's like, that's a man who broke the law and made huge mistakes and then came back and made restoration in a way I've never seen a businessman do. That is a man of integrity. I want to work with him, you know? And when they bought my new company, the dividend I got from what I had to give up, if I'd known I was going to get that kind of return, I would have given up more shit. It was a miracle of doing the right thing. See, like these are not demonstrations of me. These are demonstrations of my higher power. Look how they inspire. Look at the power of inspiration of miracles. So it is our responsibility to demonstrate how our higher power has worked in our life. Can you see this? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
At once we commenced to outgrow fear. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps.
Yeah.
One set of voices cries that sex is a lust of a lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough of it or that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow no flavor for his fare, and the other would have all of us on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy.
That is an action item. And that is to stay out of the debate and the arbitration for all sex conduct in Alcoholics Anonymous.
We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex
What
conduct.
is the arbiter?
The judge.
The judge. None of our business. So like this is an action item for the group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Does not mean not to keep someone safe, right? The point is, I'm not here to judge, man on man, woman on woman, man with woman and woman, a prolific, abstinent, only in marriage. You know what I mean? You're 93, she's 17. 18. All right, let's keep it that way. I am judging a 17-year-old, all right? You're going to prison. But all of this is none of my business. Like how you like it, when you like it, how often you like it. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're not even here to make that decision. That's kind of like, that would be like a section called Higher Power, Who is God? We'd be fist fighting in the street. We're here to identify our own relationship ideal, not the individual that is best for me, how I'm supposed to act in a relationship, how I'm supposed to act in the active act of dating, looking for one, and how I'm supposed to act once I've got one. This is mine. If you live my relationship ideal, you might drink. You know what I mean? I was sitting in a meeting at the Roost. This old timer, I'm not going to say his name, but he had some time. This young kid sits there and goes, he's asking him a question. He goes, hey, I'm young, I'm 20-something years old. Is it okay if I just have a little, as long as I tell him what the scoop is, you know what I mean? And lay down the law, and because I'm young, I want to have some fun. And the guy's like, hey man, as long as you're not hurting anybody and everybody's smiling, have a good time. I went, stop. I have no idea what your relationship ideal is. I just know that he doesn't either. And I know that there's a section here that we'll read that says if my behavior continues to harm others, and I'm not sorry, I'm sure to drink. Really, you're not theorizing, there's a facts among us. So if I accidentally cause harm, there's all kinds of harm: emotional harm, physical harm, mental harm, spiritual harm. I can cause harm and not even know I'm causing harm, thinking I'm just having a good time, and wonder why I keep relapsing. I don't care. There's nowhere in the book where it says you need to wait 12 months or 12 steps before you date anybody, but I would strongly encourage a couple things. Wait till you change a bit, because you're going to match exactly who you get, and you look ugly. And number two, I would strongly encourage you to make sure you have a relationship ideal so you know how you should be dating and how you should be acting when you're in one. And the old timer was like, where is this in the book? It's on page 69. So Bill gave us some great stuff. He gave us some inventory. Some of you, this is going to be a larger inventory than your resentment inventory. Good for you. Congratulations on being so active. For some of you, it's going to be a little post-it, okay? I'm so sad. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a diagram. This is kind of a breakdown. You can pass this around. Just kind of pass it around. That way I can get back to the microphone. I'm going to give you a breakdown. We'll walk through it. And really, this is not a worksheet or a workbook. All I've done is just taken the kind of that 65-ish approach, that page 65-ish approach to the sex conduct diagram. We're here. Yes.
Well, just this one sentence here.
Yes.
One school would allow a man no flavor for his beer, and the other would have all of us on straight diet.
Yeah.
What is that?
One would say to you, I would like to see you marry her, stay with her, make 3 babies with her, and then just call it a day. In other words, just that's it. That's what you get. Vanilla love life, and it's for procreation. Okay? And another one is like, let's get our black leather pants on. Anybody that will let me have fun. We're just all about sex. What's the big deal? It's all about love and sex and just go. You know what I mean? Whatever makes us smile and feel good, go get it. Okay? So I'm going to tell you, I've been hearing a lot of confessions. I've been doing this sex and sobriety workshop for a long time. And there are swingers, and there's polyandrists, and there's hedonists, and then there's abstinents, and then there's Puritans, and there's all these. Everybody's here. We're just not sharing it in the meaning of Alcoholics Anonymous because it's an outside issue. Okay? I'm not here to pick what the correct relational or sexual pattern is for anyone. I'm here to walk you through the inventory so that you can figure that out for who? For yourself. But once you figure it out for yourself and you share it with your sponsor, now you can be held accountable. Okay? And we'll walk you through that right now.
Right, so we all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the past years. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? And what should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it.
By the way, I'm going to say it once again. This is not sex conduct, it is relationship conduct. So when you say we all have relationship problems is what Bill should have said. Okay? Relationship problems. So this is actually relationship conduct. Okay? Does that make sense? Are you with me so far? Because it was assumed back in the 30s that if you were having sex, you were in a relationship. That's why they called it relations. Having relations. They didn't realize that we were going to turn it into such a athletic sport. Okay, so that said, Bill was also a little discombobulated because he had his own conduct issues. All right, Bill was a little prolific himself. Yes. So Bill is out there. Oh, right. Okay, you guys should do that. Okay, as opposed to really clearly outlining it like he did in the resentment inventory. But don't worry, I got a hold of Jim Burwell, and we went right back to Bill's old stuff, and we know what Bill was trying to get at, and I'm going to give you some good shots at it. So here's what he says. First off, in this way, we're going to shape a sane and sound ideal. Understand, that's our ultimate goal for our future relationship life, okay? And we subjected each relation to the test. You ready for this? It was considered relations if you had sex with them. And I remember saying this to a group of men one time, and there was like 8 guys going, "Oh crap, yeah," because you weren't. It was a short relationship. It was a Tuesday night at Goat Hill Tavern, but that is still a relationship. Just because it was an hour doesn't mean it's not a relationship. It was a relationship. And if you live with her, she's on this inventory. And these are each individual inventories. You're subjecting these questions, this inventory, to each relationship. And if you were super prolific, you're going to lump all your one-night stands into one big group. And if you're a big, work kind of dater, you might have to lump those in. But other people have maybe I had a relationship with 8 or 9 individuals. Relations was considered sexual experience. So if you had sex with this person, they are going to be individually addressed. Okay? We're going to do this inventory, and we're not going to be doing yes and no answers. Did I unjustifiably create suspicion? Yes. That is not what we're asking. It's really quite simple. It's a 5-column inventory. Who? And in this case, this is our hypothetical. This is Lisa. Okay? So I'm subjecting the entire test to Lisa. She's the who. Defect. So it says, where had we been selfish? You see it says it? Where had we been selfish? So the second column is the defect, selfish. Now I go like this. In my relationship with Lisa, where had I been selfish? And I have to write down what portion of that? All. In and out of the bedroom. So in the bedroom, in the kitchen. Selfish with money, selfish with my time, selfish. I didn't want to watch the movie she wanted to watch. I didn't want to go play with her family. It doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Whatever the selfishness is, I have to list it until selfishness is exhausted. Then I get to go to the next defect. In my relationship with Lisa, where had I been dishonest? Lied about the money, lied about my feelings, stayed with her. How many of you guys have stayed in a relationship you knew you should have got out of? Dishonest in my relationship. And you'll see this pattern over and over again. He was a friend, I made him think he was more, and I stayed with him. I stayed with him, I stayed with him. Right? And then then once you're done with dishonest, you go to inconsiderate. You starting to see the pattern here? In my relationship with Lisa, where had I been inconsiderate? And it starts in the bedroom, works its way to the kitchen. In every single area, how was I inconsiderate? Yelled at her, made her feel like it was always her fault, expected sex with porn, refused to bathe before sex, didn't keep my promises. So we're showing signs of like, this is going to be shared with your sponsor. I'm not asking you to share it here. I'm just saying it's going to be inventory that will be both in the bedroom and it will be in the kitchen. It's in all aspects of inconsideration. And I'm going to go through all 6 words. Selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate, jealousy. In my relationship with Lisa, did I create jealousy? Not where was I jealous, where did I create jealousy? In my relationship with Lisa, where did I create suspicion? In my relationship with Lisa, where did I create bitterness? Okay? So if you see these words, I'm going to have this Lisa, defect, what I did wrong. This is going to be the next column that's really, because it says here, who got hurt? It says, whom had we hurt? This is our next column. When I did this, who got hurt by it? And this is where the brain starts to change. Because the little boy who thinks it's okay to take the girl home, who realizes the girl is really interested in seeing him and being with him, and she thinks her body is a Bitcoin that's going to get his attention permanently. He takes advantage of that and takes her home, and he pleases her, treats her like a buddy, and she gets hurt. Do you understand? And he gets hurt. He doesn't realize until he looks and goes, gosh, I hurt her. And so when you start recognizing this hurt, you, me, them, us. You, me, you, me, them, us. And you keep saying it over and over and over again. Something happens in the brain where you're going to go, now I know what harm is. It's almost like saying, once you know you're an alcoholic, you go have a glass drinking. You are never, it's just not fun. Remember when that first time you relapsed? How was that? Wasn't it a wingding? I mean, once you know you're an alcoholic and you drink again, it sucks. Once you know that you're hurting others in some of these areas, when you act out in this area, it changes how you feel permanently. It's beautiful. It was a great inventory. I just wish Bill had gotten more clear. Well, here's the last question. Ready for this? Ready for the last question? What should I have? What? What did it say? Done instead. Oh man, this is a great question and a great answer. So now it's so funny. I lied about my money. Should discuss the money. Doesn't it make sense? Like, I should discuss the money. Watch this. What should you do if you're in a dishonest relationship you know you shouldn't be in? You should what? Leave. Yeah. Watch this. You know, when you go into your dating, like, I knew they were the wrong one for me before I even moved in. What should you have never done? Never moved in. Yeah. The very first time. I'm so sorry, man. But we've all... You now have this huge treatise of should have dones in all your relationships, and you'll see distinct patterns. You now get to shape a sane and sound ideal. In other words, you take all the should have dones and you write out your Magna Carta, how I'm supposed to act in a relationship. I'm supposed to be a listener and buy flowers and do dishes and be respectful and, be honest about my feelings. And if you're the wrong person for me, I know it. Leave, and you should know what's going on in my world so you can make a decision on whether or not you want to be in it. You know what I mean? It goes on and on and on. And this becomes my ideal. My dating and relationship ideal. Now, I can share that with my sponsor. And now my sponsor can hold me accountable. I'll give you an example of how that's happened in my past. I had one guy, it's like his entire past was checkered of like work romances. So every single time he hooked up with a girl from work, it always turned out bad. He's been fired from it 3 times because it got so bad, right? And he also had this relationship ideal where he's never going to date anyone he's not emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically attracted to. So if he doesn't really feel that connection, he's not going to take her out. It's always going to be a lunch date first, and then dinner if he feels the real attraction. Does that make sense? He's got this beautiful relationship ideal, and he's like, okay. Then like a week later he says, oh, you should see this piece of A that just came to my office. Huge chi-chis. I'm so excited to take her out, man. We are going to have a great weekend. And I went, wait a minute. Isn't this completely against your relationship ideal? He goes, oh, whoa. You are my sponsor, but you're not to be the arbiter of my sex conduct. I don't have to judge anything. You've already given me your relationship ideal. I'm holding you accountable to yours. You do this, you're harming her, and you're harming you. You do what you want now. He was like, oh, you get the picture? So I'm not going to hold you against. So now let's keep going. Let's see what happens next after we get done. Whatever ideal turns out to be, we must be willing. See, whatever ideal turns out to be, we must be. And this is going to be the 3rd paragraph of 69. Whatever our ideal turns out to be.
Thank you. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as if we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter.
That is an action item.
The right answer will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice.
I have no idea where in the big book it says that you should wait 12 months before you start dating. I have no idea where it says you should have your steps done before you start dating. But I do know that if you haven't even done your 4-step and your 5th step, you don't have a relationship ideal. So you can be causing harm accidentally, and you can relapse. So if you'd like to stay sober, I would strongly encourage you to hedge your bets and work towards at least having a relationship ideal. This has gotten more men to get their 4-step done promptly than anything else. Straight up. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal.
Does this mean we are going to get drunk?
How many guys think we're going to fall short of the chosen ideal? Be inconsiderate, create some bitterness, maybe encourage some jealousy, be dishonest, selfish a little bit. You think we're going to do that? Yes, we are. We are going to make mistakes. But if you're inventorying every day, you're going to look at those mistakes, you're going to keep trying to rise towards the occasion and build, more and more principled behavior. Yes? But if you stumble, what's going to happen?
Does that mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so. But this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson.
She catches him cheating, so he feels sad. I'm so sorry I cheat, please forgive me. He doesn't do anything to change his behavior, doesn't work on his inventory, doesn't start to confess it, doesn't get real, doesn't get honest. Really what he is just sad that he got what? Caught. Okay? So he tells his friends, his favorite thing to say is what she doesn't know won't hurt her. Life is too short. You know what I mean? What ifs in my world? And all that's showing is a puckish attitude towards just going for whatever he can get his hands on, and ultimately he's causing harm perpetually. But this is not just about cheating. This man could also be the person who constantly berates her. He constantly puts her down, calls her dumb, calls her ignorant, never pays attention to her, doesn't hold her hand. His voice raises quickly and inappropriately. He doesn't really support around the house. He can call, and I'm not even talking about putting his hands on her. I'm just talking about somebody who's inattentive and is constantly just kind of like he's stepping up off of his bride to make himself feel better. There are all kinds of ways of causing harm, guys, and it doesn't have to be just a big old cheating and hitting. You know what I mean? It causes harm because he works all the time. He works 90 hours a week. He never comes home. He's never home. He feels like he's a good provider, but she has no husband in bed. None whatsoever. Causes harm perpetually. He doesn't care. He's going for the brass ring. 10 more years and he can retire with a Porsche. That's all he cares about. She's causing harm. Once I recognize what I'm doing, wrong or right, to him or her or them, I can identify what needs to be dealt with. I'm either going to be sorry about my behavior or I'm not. If I'm sorry, I want to change. More often than not, I get to be picked up and given a chance to change. If I'm not sorry, my behavior continues to harm others. What happens?
Says, if we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience.
You're going to drink. That means you're going to drink. If you keep hurting him or hurting her or them with your behavior knowingly, without going out and making a difference in your world to change, you're going to drink. That's what not theorizing and facts means.
To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal.
I've written it. I want to pray to live towards it. Okay?
For guidance in each questionable situation.
I'm straying away from my ideal. Help me get back.
For sanity and for the strength to do the right thing.
I'm starting to obsess about her, him, that, the other thing, and I want to be clear-minded. Please bring my sanity back.
If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others.
Oops, I slipped into another one. Oops, I found the arms of another one. Oops, I made the mistakes of being abusive again. And if you keep having these problems, it says we throw ourselves. Guess what? You get what you give, yes? So this does not mean go sponsor more men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous and help more sober people. That will not clear you up. The reason I started sex and sobriety workshops is because this was a problem area for me. The reason I help men and women find their relationship ideals independently on their own, with their own sponsorship and support, is because I know that if I keep helping others in this area, I keep getting helped in this area. I want to get this, so I give this. So if this is an area in your world that's broken, you should give sobriety in this area if you want to get ahead of it. Otherwise, don't whine about falling apart again. Keep going.
We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot.
Have we written a lot in this 4-step rendition? Have we written a big 4-step now? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have listed and analyzed our resentments.
These are results.
We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. Being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself.
If these are answers to yes, if you can answer all these yes, if these are results that are happening, you have done the actions and intentions of the 4-step accurately. If these are no's, then that means you're missing some of the actions and intentions. Can you understand, yes or no?
Yes.
Watch us whip through the 5th step. What we're going to do in our 5th step, we're going to go quickly through 72 to 75. Ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to read the first two paragraphs all the way up to the beginning of 73. Okay? And then we are going to get right down to the very bottom of 73 and read what we must be entirely honest. We're going to cut out. We're going to jump. 72. We're going to go right into 72 on chapter 6 into action. But really what is important to the 5th step, right, is why you're here to do it. How to experience, how to start and listen, who should listen, and how to know that you're done, ultimately. can have a wonderful fifth step by just sitting here sharing your stuff. Read your paperwork, read all the words on your paper. You can read all the words on your paper to somebody who understands. You'll have a good experience. Because you will have gotten a lot of that stuff out. You'll feel like a weight lifted off you. Share with the wrong person. You know me, what it feels like to be the member of a notorious biker cruise home group with murderers who look at you. You know how many times I've had somebody say, and if you ever share this inventory with anybody, I am going to kill you. And I've had that happen to me over and over and over again. Then I have to start thinking like this: what if this guy relapses? And I started realizing there's only certain content I can be subpoenaed. So I started thinking about safety. I started thinking about responsibility. I'm going to walk you through who should listen, when she should listen, what should be shared. But it's important that it all gets shared. Yes or no? And there's a reason for it. So let's read that, having made our personal inventory.
Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path.
If they don't know what they're here to do, you should be doing it with them. So they should be able to answer that question.
We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is.
What are some of your defects, and what is the rough trouble? If they can answer that question, maybe they've done a good 4-step.
We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter.
Why do I have to share this with a human being? Why can't I just think through this? Well, I can tell you one thing. When I have done this so many times, I've listened to so much secrets, and as a matter of fact, when I do the Back to Basics retreat, I typically encourage men who are traveling. I know you have 1 or 2 secrets you haven't shared with your sponsor. You need to stop that shit, and you need to meet me outside by the bench and get it off your chest. And I can't tell you how many times I've had men walk up, okay, I haven't told anybody this. And then they share it. The profound effect of finally getting all their life story out is a massive experience. But I've heard so many 5th steps that I keep hearing my own damn inventory over and over again. You know? And I've come to like 4 general conclusions. A, we all have family problems. B, we're dishonest and have sticky fingers. We have relationship issues, and we probably shouldn't have pets. But like other than that, like I listen to these same inventories that everybody seems to be so guarded over and over again, and I feel like I'm listening to myself over and over and over again. So as a sponsor, hearing a 5th step, I can't tell you how beautiful it is to look at somebody with my inventory and go, you are okay. Who am I healing? Them? Me. And you are healing me. Every time you say, I did this. And I get to see myself from a different vantage point and love on you. And you get to have one human being who's had a similar experience come back and say, me too, but I changed and you're okay. We forgive and heal each other. It's a beautiful 12-step that rotates back and forth in cycles. And as you keep doing that, eventually the things that you think are the worst in you will become the assets of your greatest power in helping other men and women change. You know, those secrets, everybody has 1 or 2 secrets they know should never see the light of day. And those will be the ones you'll share the most. And if you're foolish enough, you'll share 1 or 2 of them from the podium. Don't do that. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, don't do that. It's on recording. So I need to have that. Now, with my higher power in the room, there's magic. And typically when I start a 5th step with someone, I don't know who your God is. You don't need to tell me what your God is. I'm not going to tell you who my God is. So typically when I start a 5th step, I just simply say, let's just both invite our higher powers, wherever that may be, into this experience. And let's just quietly close our eyes and be silent for about a minute or 2. And pray the way you want to pray. They don't need to bring their prayer or their perspective. We don't need to have the definition of their God to have this work. Just quietly invite your power to be here with us. Now there's magic. Now there's a clarity of thought, a focus to the experience. Look me in the eye, I'll look you in the eye. Begin sharing me your story. What portion of your story should you share? All. Get it all done. And the most beautiful thing happens when I get done listening to a 5th step. I love listening to 5th steps. Invariably, I'll say things when they're done. Do you feel like you've done it all? And they say, yes. I say, great. Have you had a same-sex experience? Have you had an sexual experience with a family member? Have you had a sexual experience with an animal? And what else aren't you telling me? And usually 9 times out of 10 they go, okay. And there's like 2 or 3 more things that come out. And I say, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. You know? What else do you have? Until they get what portion of the story out? Oh. So this is a beautiful experience. Who should have it? All of us. You deserve it. But once you've done this fifth step with one person, you're going to do thousands with others. And you get to listen to them over and over again and then regurgitate your own fifth step content to help them change. Okay? So this is perhaps what?
This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient.
Correct.
Many of us thought it necessary to go much further.
Accurate.
We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reason why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking.
There's that vital again, right? It's life preserving. I have to do this. I look at you, when I spot a guy, you're like my mirror. Who am I really looking at? Myself. Who are you looking at? Yourself. We need this. This is the only way I can accurately see. My eyes are in the wrong place to do a self-evaluation.
Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock.
There's a feeling of anxiety that will always kind of stay in you. Intimacy is a beautiful experience. I have a relationship in my life where absolutely I've heard her fifth step, she's heard my fifth step, I know every single thing about her. It's a beautiful relationship when somebody knows you so clearly that they still choose to be with you. And then all of a sudden you know your love for who you are and not for the presentation that you give. When you walk around Alcoholics Anonymous and the fake version of you is doing the steps, the real version of you is dying. When the real version of you is doing the steps, then you really change. You deserve the opportunity to have an intimate, accurate, honest look at yourself. Let somebody else do the same and love you for exactly who you are. And then that will become practice. Because it's not just about you and your sponsor getting real with each other. This is about you learning to practice that honesty and that intimacy and that connection with others. And then eventually get to that place where you can be transparent and authentic in your world.
They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story.
Let's go back down to we must be entirely ready.
Down to the bottom of page 73.
Bottom 73.
We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world.
How many of you guys want to live long and happy in this world? Then you need to, what is entirely honest? Isn't that kind of redundant? I need to be honest. I was so mad if I'm being honest, I'm telling you everything. But he wants you to hear entirely honest, okay? What portion of your story is going to get heard? All. What portion of your story is getting written? All.
Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate, confidential step.
Truth without hypocrisy.
Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it.
Remember, this book was a do-it-yourself kit. It was sent through the mail, okay? So there were no sponsors. So as you read this language, I want you to imagine there were no meetings. There were no meetings. So there's a lady that was in Arkansas, 1941, sent off to New York for a book, gave it to her husband, said, do this or get out. He opened the book and he was looking for somebody. He wrote his 4-step from the language you just got, wrote it, and now I know who should hear it. That's what this language was designed to do, was to help that person out in the middle of Oklahoma somewhere go find somebody that could authentically hear this content. Bill could never have imagined that there would be 4 million of us and 200 meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous in your local South County region every week. So he'd be like baffled that you couldn't find somebody. But he was like, okay, If you're part of the Catholic Church, or if you're part of this Christian church where they believe in confession, you should do that because you're an honest member of that faith, so you should probably do that. What else?
Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion.
Go talk to a priest if you don't go to church, because priests can't be subpoenaed, by the way. So if you've got criminal behavior from the past, you can go right over to a priest and you can open up the curtain and you can start talking and share all your stuff, and they can listen to it, but the courts cannot come in and subpoena them for that behavior, so you're safe. You can also go talk to a pastor, and a pastor can listen to you, but they can be subpoenaed. So you want to dump all your stuff. If you've made some mistakes out there, you got to be careful who you're talking to, because if the word gets out that you've got those mistakes, that person you're sharing to can legally be addressed and be brought in front of a court of law. So if you've got super criminal behavior, you need to go to a priest. Okay?
We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcohol.
So I'm not guaranteeing you that they're not going to try to sell you a little church. Okay? Don't get too afraid that they're going to sell you some church. Okay? You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why some folks won't go, because they're concerned that all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're going to be, they're going to get baptized, and now they've been converted to the tribe. I'm just here to tell you, if you want to share, pastors, priests, ministers, many of them most often are really good to hear this inventory. A few of them are going to sell you pretty hard. So just be strong.
If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintances for a closed-mouth, understanding friend.
That does not mean go out and hang out with our drunk friend at Goat Hill Tavern while he's drinking up his vodka and we just start dumping all of our stuff. If you've got a good buddy, right, that can listen to your stuff, that can soberly listen to your stuff and not go tell your friends about it or put it up on social media, you got a good shot. Well, the close-mouth friend is now your sponsor. This has been defined as a sponsor. And if you don't have a sponsor you can share this inventory with, you should probably get a different sponsor. Most individuals who have a sponsor, who understand traditions, understand, and I can tell you this, anonymity is precious. You can kill alcoholics by breaking their anonymity. So find a sponsor who has a sponsor with a working knowledge of the big book, who understands their traditions, who will listen to your content, and I almost guarantee it, you will have the experience you're looking for. Keep going.
Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person.
If you've broken the law, or you've touched children, or you've done any of that weird stuff, you tell to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, they are going to turn you in. But I know a lot of individuals with dual diagnosis sit there and confess to a psychiatrist and psychologist, and it's the best $160 an hour they've ever paid. That person listens with a sympathetic ear. Okay?
It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy.
And you can say, hey, I heard Todd went home and shared with his lady everything in his fifth step, and she shared everything in her fifth step, and it worked out great. I wish you the best. I hope. I don't know if that'll work for you. In my relationship ideal, it worked out fine. It might end you up in divorce court. But I can tell you that, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if a relationship can't hear everything I've got to say, it's probably the wrong one for me anyways. So that's your decision. So I know that most people don't lead with the chin and go home and go, guess what? I got 37 things I need to confess tonight. You know what I mean? So I would strongly encourage you not to bring a family member that's also associated with the pain. So it's like not a good idea to get your girlfriend's dad to sit down and listen to all your pain and everything, all the cheating you've done on her. All right, so you do not come from the land of dumb. You need to kind of pay attention to who you're sharing this with. Okay?
All right. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected.
That does mean that you can't share portions of your story with this person and portions of your story with this human being. I've had a lot of secrets shared with me because of these workshops I do that the sponsor never heard. But you know what happens invariably when they share that stuff with me independently? Once they get it out, they kind of go, I think I can tell this to my sponsor now. And I encourage them to go back and get honest with them. Okay? Keep going.
The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available.
Okay, there's no meaning of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no member of Alcoholics Anonymous with any time, with any traditions or any steps in your neighborhood or within a 100-mile radius. You have no pastors, no priests, no rabbis, no Catholic priests. or ministers of any kind in your area. You have no psychologists, no therapists, no social workers, no psychiatrists of any kind in your area. You have no friends. None of your, and if you do have friends, none of them are any good. None of your family can listen to you. You have no close family members. There is not even a homeless person with a resident ear living next to you. If there's absolutely no one who can hear this fifth step, you're welcome to postpone. Okay? And you live in Mars, okay? I have a guy named Chuck who is sentenced for life in the criminally insane ward and Metropolitan State Psychiatric Unit 407 for the rest of his life. He did this inventory and he found someone to share his inventory with, which was not the doctor. Okay? So if he can find someone, you can find someone. So that whole I'm still working on my fifth step trying to find somebody, you're an insane person. It's time to get busy and put the excuses down. Everybody got me? Yes or no? Yes. Keep going.
So, if that is so, the step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep confidence that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at. That he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone.
See, those are your definitions, right? He has to be able to keep a confidence. She or he have to be able to demonstrate that they understand that this is confidential. He or she need to fully understand that I'm trying to stay sober and I'm getting my entire life story out, and that they are supportive. And then ultimately, they're not going to be listen to your entire plan and go, now that I've heard this, you need to drop that AA crap and let's go work on some healthy living. You know, a little workout, maybe some greens, you know what I mean, some yoga, and try to talk you out of your pathway. So if you have an individual that fits at least those three criteria, you have a candidate to hear your fifth step. Okay?
When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk.
Those are action items and intentions. I had a guy actually call me on the phone and say, hey, I can come over and do my fifth step for my lunch hour today. I'm not getting your fifth step done in 43 minutes, man. And if you actually have a fifth step that needs to be shared in 43 minutes, you're a liar. You have a lot of omission. Okay, keep going.
We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it.
If you can't tell me why you're here, what you're here to cast out, you can't tell me that what chunks of defects that you're going to put your fingers on, if you cannot tell me what you're here to do, there's no point in doing it. Go back and read the first page of Into Action and make sure you've read the last page of 70 on your how it works. Okay?
He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence.
Then what? There's an action item.
We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past.
Every dark cranny, all my life story, honestly and thoroughly. What portion of our story are we going to share? Oh boy, wouldn't it be great? I'd love to have a video recording of everybody's fifth step. That would be better than most documentaries and definitely all of the Star Wars movies. I would watch it for years. Okay, keep going.
Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eyes. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from, those are promises. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience.
If you don't feel these things happen, that means more than likely you did not get all your life story out. If you start to feel these results, your actions and intentions are unchecked. Okay?
The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly.
Who wants to stay sober?
We feel we are on the broad highway walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Spiritual awakening.
Right. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour.
How long?
1 hour.
1 hour. Hey, you ADD kids out there that can't sit quietly, can't even meditate, I strongly encourage you. A jacuzzi, a shower, warm bath, warm water. I sit in my jacuzzi, I can sit in there for 3 hours. It calms me down and focuses. If you can't sit on the couch, you can't sit in the chair without falling asleep, you read, or you start to get distracted after 5 minutes, go sit in the jacuzzi, go sit in the shower, go sit in a warm bath, let the water run, you will calm down. And just find a way to relax. I need to sit an hour and reflect. Did I do it all? Did I give all of my truth? Did I share all of my story? How am I feeling? What did I learn about myself? Keep going.
Carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we now know Him
That's an
better.
action item. Thank you, higher power. Thank you, God.
Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps.
Take the big book, put it by your jacuzzi, put it by your bath, put it by your couch, open it up to page 58 and 59, and read those first 5 proposals, first 5 steps.
Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything.
Am I an alcoholic? Can he do this for me? Will I let him? Did I do a great inventory and have I shared everything?
For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put in the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand?
This is the foundation for my 8th step. If I've done a solid 4th step and shared all my 5th step, then I have the beginnings of an incredible 8th and 9th step. I definitely have the guts for the defects for my 6th and 7th step. I now understand the process and cadence I'll use in my 10th and 11th step, and I'll be able to walk somebody through effectively getting sober in my 12th step. This 4th step, doing it right first, well, quickly, is absolutely necessary for me to have the type of sobriety that we all talk about having in here. Where my actions and my intentions and my results, do they match? Today what we've done is walking you through your 4th and 5th step. I hope that you kind of got some good content out of this day. If the one thing you walked away with is, wow, there's a lot of writing in the 4th step. You're right, there is a lot of writing in the 4th step. But you have years and years and years and years and years of sobriety waiting for you. And you have remarkable gifts waiting for you. So an extra few days of writing is not going to hurt you. Yes or no?
Yes.
I hope and encourage you guys, go kick butt, go do a great job. Here we go.